Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another Backwoods episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 235, recorded on Monday, October 7th, 2019. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Deliverance, as was chosen by our lovely Patreon supporter, Hydraberg. Before we get into the review,
Hydraberg.
Let me introduce everyone else.
I feel like
the
it's
show.
like obligated now.
Yeah, the one, the only Hydraberg. First up, calling in from just outside Chicago, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, Randy?
Hello. What's going on, everybody? Ready to get our pumpkins on?
What's up, Randy?
I like that we're in our backwoods phase of the podcast. That's
Pumpkins.
great. We haven't had any backwoods menaces in a while.
It's true. It feels good to be back. Nice and southern.
Woods.
I see what you did. Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, Soju?
What up? It's your boy, Punkenstein.
Pumpkins.
I like it.
It gets more sing-songy by the day.
Punkenstein.
Pumpkins.
I wonder if that man ever says stains at any point in that interview. I wonder if he could put them together.
Probably, but it's almost
Rock
certainly
home
about blood
brew.
stains.
Oh, God.
Speaking of pumpkins, now might be a great time to plug our brand new t-shirt design on TeePublic. There's a link in the show notes and on our website. Get our new hot merch from TeePublic.
Steaming hot.
Yeah, featuring the gentleman that says
Pumpkins.
on there. We should probably post a link to that interview. that everything is terrible interview.
Nobody knows what this t-shirt is except we made a t-shirt specifically for us.
Yeah, well, we've referenced it.
Which is what we do.
Yeah, specifically for you, actually.
That's not
more than
true.
anything.
Actually, yeah.
That is incorrect. Lies.
You are the top buyer of that product so far.
Lies.
So Rob could have a Punkins mug.
Well, there's this wonderful group of people called Everything is Terrible, and they find all these really obscure, like VHS videos, and they edit them together in very funny ways. And they have a Halloween-centric one you can find on YouTube. Just search Everything is Terrible. What is it? The Pagan Invasion, I think?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you can find this specific pumpkin line in their cut, and I think it's actually Grimy Ghost through. I don't know, I don't remember, but yeah, they you have to like watch the whole goddamn crazy ass Pagan Invasion VHS series about how Halloween is of the devil and shit from the 90s.
Yes,
Santanic
it's
Panic, am I right, boys?
Santanic.
It is, yeah, it's so smooth. I don't think that there's a whole lot of value in watching that without their edit, but
I agree.
If you can find that man talking about being in a cult in his fucking sweater and shit, it's great. It's a great cut.
True. I'll try and find it and include a link to that in the show notes. If I can find it, I'll definitely drop it on there for you guys. I'm making a note so I don't forget. Pumpkins. Cool. Let's go ahead and tackle some housekeeping. So the November poll pick is posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to be talking about this November. The theme for the month is going to be movies that Justin hates. And the titles you can vote between are Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's 31, and Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects.
Have you spotted the pattern here?
The theme?
There's
It's
a
very
sub-theme
subtle.
in play.
It's very subtle. Devil's Rejects is winning. 31 is taking second place, and Halloween 2 is in third place. Get your votes in before the end of the month, people. Make them count. Rock the vote.
It's going to be a rough
You want to
month.
make this man suffer. So do it. Vote.
There's no winning here.
We're all losers this month.
Yeah.
Yes.
In other glorious Patreon-related news, we have not one, not two, not three, but 4 brand new Patreon supporters.
Whoa.
Stinking damn.
We got to give
We're
shouts
getting
out.
closer and closer to that straight chilling mansion.
So
we got to get it
close.
before Halloween ends.
So we can have the Halloween party and christen it.
Yep.
It's a mansion made of pumpkin hopes and pumpkin dreams.
We got to give shouts outs to Clayton, Vincent, Kyle, and Tara. Thank you guys so much for signing up on Patreon and choosing to support us. It helps us keep
you
the
so
lights
much.
on. We really do appreciate it. And as always, we owe you the straight chilling salute. This one's
Salute.
for you.
Double fist on YouTube.
Slap me! Hold on!
And also, this is the real salute. Smack in the ass right there.
Yeah, you got to like curve it out. Like this.
Go from salute to ass smack.
Yeah, all in one
Gotta
motion.
swing it out. Looks a lot like a swoop, Randy.
My roots may be showing. That's fine.
It takes practice. It's not easy.
It's definitely not easy.
It's not. The last bit of Patreon news. We mentioned the past couple weeks we're going to be raffling off some movie blundles. Some
Whoa,
I was gonna bite the-
on the mind.
We got the blooper reel going.
bundle. We're going to be raffling off some movie bundles every week for the month of October. So we have the first winner this week we're going to be announcing right now. So everybody give it up for Spanish Henry. You got some movies coming your way.
Hey, Spanish Henry.
What
Up.
You're a friend and mine, winner of backlog DVDs of Rob's.
Pumpkins.
So I'm going to be sending those your way in the next couple days. And if you are listening and wondering how you can join this raffle, all you got to do is sign up on Patreon, support us at any level, and you will be entered to win for the next 3 weeks of October. That's all you got to do.
Bob, what Blu Rays you sending out?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
what's the haul?
I was going to keep it a secret. I think. Keep it
Well, let us know,
Hush, hush.
Spanish Henry, when you get the package.
Yeah.
So shoot us
we know.
Shoot us a phone call, since Juice and I are not high enough pay grade in this operation to know what we're giving people.
That is ridiculous. But yeah,
It is ridiculous. I'm glad you
I
agree,
agree.
Bob.
We're on the
Glad
same
you can
page
see
there.
our point of view.
Too bad we can't see the next 3 pages.
Oh.
Not on top secret level.
Oh, great Lord.
Too much red
Help
tape.
me. Lord Jesus. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, Spanish Henry. Justin, you've got some YouTube and Twitch news, don't you?
Yeah, we got some new YouTube. Finally got that Friday the 13th review up, video game review. So if you want to check that out on YouTube, appreciate everyone who's been subscribing. We're getting very
Appreciate
close to the 300 mark. Hashtag appreciate you. We appreciate all the comments and likes. That really helps people find us. Hashtag appreciate you.
you.
So yeah, that was our game from
I'm glad that lives
July. Yeah, that was our game from July. But speaking of games, though, we got a new game we're playing this month for October. The Blair Witch Project, another movie / turned into game.
Did you say the Bear Winch Project?
No,
The Bear Winch.
that comes out next month.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's all about stripping down your winches.
That was a great.
You don't want
dad
that shit
joke.
chromed, let me tell you.
That was pretty good.
Nice and matte.
I already got scared quite a few times in my first week.
I've seen gifs of you, my friend.
I know.
in full freak out mode, and flashes of going to watch The Conjuring or Paranormal Activity with you.
Yeah, I gotta go. Yeah, if you want to see what it's like to go to a suspension type horror movie with me in the theater, watch this week's playthrough on Twitch. I'll be uploading it to YouTube as well. But it's a spooky kind of setting. You walk around. I got my new headphones on too, so it's right, like, I don't know, it's just like surround sound or whatever, which I didn't have because it's very similar to our June game, Layers of Fear, where you kind of like explore, walk around, and you get scared or whatever. But it's pretty awesome. It's like a kind of like a long haunted house. But I've been enjoying that so far. I'll be playing again this week. So if you want, check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/Straight Chilling Podcast. You can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Straight Chilling Podcast. Keeping it consistent over here.
Nice and consistent.
There you go.
Yes.
When are you going to do that Eternal Darkness, bro? When are you going to throw back to the fucking GameCube?
Dude, got to pour that shit in.
Well, good luck with that part.
Eternal Darkness.
It's an uphill battle to get that one ported, I think, but it's a good fucking horror game. Anyway, unrelated.
Yeah. But yeah. So Blair Witch Project, I'd heard good things. It came out just last month, I think, September, or maybe the end of August. But it's fun. I could definitely. It was made by the guys who made Layers of Fear, so it's very much in a similar vein. I mean, it's got its own kind of like aspects or whatever, but it's a fun, spooky game for October. I'm excited, and yeah, I just can't help it, dude. It scares the shit out of me. Tension bench stains over here.
What's great is that unlike in one of those movies, you can't actively look the other way and stare at me while I watch the movie.
That is kind of the thing. Like, I have to be watching the screen, and like the music ramps up, and you have to like deal with shit. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh boy.
Cool. I think that's about all we have for our housekeeping. So let's go ahead and get into what we've been watching this week, gentlemen.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what you been watching?
There wasn't a ton this week that I got around to. I did get to go to a fucking dope as shit pumpkin like display walkthrough last night. Pumpkin Glow. I'd have to look up the actual name, but it was about the most intricate fucking pumpkin displays I've ever goddamn seen. And I mean, I'll post some pics on the Slack if you guys want to see pictures of it. It's join our Slack channel and I'll be sharing them there. But it was just fucking awesome. It took a little bit of a wait to get there, and it was muddy as shit out, but we enjoyed the hell out of it. And it was like they had a whole like winter wonderland thing with like snowman pumpkins and shit, and like
Damn.
They had some that were like just like really dope recreations like of people's faces and things. Like it was just really, really impressive. So we did that. Other than that, I watched a couple episodes of that show, The Witching Season. Have you guys seen that on Prime?
Yeah, I've seen the first episode anyways.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is behind it, like in terms of like, you know, the people making it or how it was made or whatever. But it's almost like an anthology series, a short anthology series of really short, like maybe almost student shorts, but maybe like maybe a rung above that.
So they're short.
You know, it's like they're shorts, but they're also like, you know, they're not high budget at all. You can tell that they're like really, really low budget affairs, and it's I think primarily made by one dude, or at least there's one dude who is in every episode and whose name is escaping me. And they're pretty fun, you know. Like I wouldn't watch it outside of the Halloween season though, because it is deeply, deeply Halloween themed. There's just a ton of like Halloween shit all throughout the episodes, even if the story isn't necessarily about that. So I enjoyed some of the episodes of that. And they're also really short, really low time commitment. Some of them, it goes from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, somewhere in there. So it's, you know, it's good. And then the last thing I watched was one that, Rob, you have praised many times, which is One Shot of the Dead. I finally got around to watching that.
What'd you think?
And man, I couldn't have even begun to predict how that was going to shake out. And Lord knows I my mind automatically wanted to. And I was like, at about 30 minutes in, I was like, how is this 30 minutes in? Like, how is this happening at 30 minutes into this movie?
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything, but there's some things that are happening on screen. I'm just like, but hold the fuck up. What?
Ooh.
There's like an hour and 15 minutes left in this thing or whatever it was. I was impressed. I enjoyed it. Yeah. And it was like, it was good, silly horror fun. You know, I wouldn't even really classify it at the end of the day as much of a horror, really more of like a silly comedy, but I enjoy it. It was a lot of
Shudder now too, so it's easy to find.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, Shudder, come to SoCo. Goddamn. Need a petition. Get them up. Start the petition on behalf of Shaboy, and so we can get Shudder.
Shudder for Shaboy.
Soko is just thirsty for some Joe Bob.
Hashtag shutter for your boy. Please.
Pumpkins.
Let them know we mean business.
Let them know. Anything else, Randy?
Yeah. So for all in all, that was about all I watched this week.
Cool.
No, that's about it.
Cool. Juice, what you been watching?
What I've been watching, I went and saw the Joker movie this weekend out here. And one thing that's nice about living overseas is I get to kind of avoid a bunch of like bullshit that seems to surround things these days. I had no idea whatsoever before this movie and like most of after this movie that there was like ridiculous controversy surrounding it as far as like just people splitting and stuff. So I was able to just completely enjoy myself. I was able to just look forward to a movie about a character I was interested in, watch it, and be able to just enjoy it wholly without any kind of bullshit surrounding it.
Good for you.
Holy indeed.
Yeah, so it was God, man. You guys need to calm down over there. Something about the States, man. People get riled the
Maybe
fuck.
it's all the shootings.
It's dude.
The what?
Oh my god.
The what?
So anyways,
I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay.
I was able to enjoy the Joker movie. I thought it was a good movie. Joaquin Phoenix did a good job. I had some problems with it, but overall, I thought it was really good. I remember when they announced it, like, oh, we're going to make a solo Joker movie, and I was not particularly about it. I was like, I don't know. But they stuck to kind of what they said. Like, there's some, like, pretty brutal stuff in it in the way and some of the things it approaches, and I thought they did a really good job. I enjoy myself, and I was kind of telling Bob before the cast, like, Korea is, like, about this way. It's, like, if it's like popular or trendy, like they don't give a fuck. Like some of my kids, I think it's got to be like an R-rated movie, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No,
yeah,
it's R-rated.
It doesn't matter. Like if it's like popular or whatever, they're not as like hung up, I guess, about violence because they're not like particularly like violent or even like just I don't know things in general. So like kids are like, yeah, I'm going to see the Joker. Like everybody's going to see the Joker movie. Everyone wants to go see it just because it's popular. So everybody's going to see it. Everybody's just enjoying themselves. Everybody's just appreciating, you know.
I would say in most movie situations, there's in America, there's not a whole lot of care about the violence aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nudity though, we will slap a fucking censor bar on that shit.
Can't have it.
Yeah.
No dingle in my
Everybody
dangle.
just
This one's an anomaly in that regard.
take a deep breath. It's just movies over here. We're just talking movies.
Justin,
it's okay.
You want to know how you solve society's problems? You censor art. That's how you do it. Okay.
Even Bob, look, Bob's taking a stand. Bob, stop taking a stand.
Let's not, for God's sake, let's not deny giant corporations their money, for God's sake. We
That's exactly
wouldn't
right.
dream of doing such a thing.
Just saying,
exactly
everybody
right.
just do what you want. On a lighter note, it's October now, I watched Ghost Watch. You need to watch
Hell
that
yeah.
shit. I don't know if that movie's ever gonna get old. It's been like 2 or 3 years now since I watched it for the first time.
Yeah.
That shit cracks me up. It cracks me up, dude. Like they sell it so good. If you've never seen Ghost Watch, watch it. It's 90s as fuck, but it's just this newscast about we did it for our Halloween extravaganza like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Just this British newscast where they like pretend like they're like talking about a Halloween special. And they're like, oh, we're going to go to this haunted house. And then they sell it as if it's real, but it's like live on air. That shit cracks me up. I think it's like brilliant. And like you couldn't really pull it off now. People are too like onto you. So it hit like just the right time. I love it. It's like it's a perfect Halloween watch for me. I love it. I think we did a special plug for Nicole at Churrasquero, and she was asking like, "What do you got to watch for Halloween?" I hope I picked that. We picked like 3 things a piece, and I ever since we watched it for a Halloween extravaganza, like I have to like watch it now every October. It's so funny.
It's such a good one, man.
Also, shout out to Nicole. She's dropping her Halloween party episode this
True.
Friday, the 11th.
Chiaroscuro cast.
Yeah, Chiaroscuro podcast. Get it anywhere you get your podcasts. Check it out. Sounds like it's going to be a pretty dope episode.
Cool.
Bobby, what you watching?
Oh, what I've been watching? I watched The Joker as well this weekend, and I thought it was just phenomenal. I enjoyed the hell out of it, man. Joaquin Phoenix did a fantastic job. It's just like a beautifully filmed movie. I feel like they gave the character of the Joker like due respect, but also like if you took that title away and got rid of all like the Batman references, it'd still hold water and be a pretty incredible movie, I think.
Called Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, the soundtrack is incredible. I really don't have problems with it. I can't wait to watch it again. I really, really did enjoy it more than I thought I would. So check that out. If you haven't, controversies be damned. Like Justin said, just go watch the movie and enjoy yourself.
Look, if anybody is under the illusion that this movie is losing money because of this controversy,
Yeah.
you go to bed easy, my friend. This movie made an extra few mil.
It broke
Because of the
October
controversy.
records. It broke October
I'm sure.
opening weekend
I'm sure.
records. Yeah.
One of the most popular comic characters in the plethora of comic book movies that we have right now, where they're the biggest name in town, and also having critical prestige and also having a controversy surrounding it. Please. They just nutted money all weekend long.
That's a good
But what about the
thing.
children, Randy?
They're
Well, they're shooting each other.
I think it's a good thing, though, that this movie was received so well, because then we'll get more contemplative character study pieces like this. Hopefully, they're not all going to
hope
be
so,
like
too, yeah.
superhero
Just-
or supervillain.
Yeah, I mean, I
related,
think that's the real linchpin. It's like
Yeah.
I think that the superhero thing is what made it possible to make it this big,
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So,
Probably.
which is unfortunate. I would love more of that though.
Yeah, I liked it. I also watched a movie called The Prey, which was recently put out by Arrow Video, and it was this sort of lost to VHS kind of slasher movie, like Woods slasher movie from the 80s. And they did a really great job putting this release out. They did like brand new artwork for it. They took like the theatrical release and the like international release and cut them together and made like this ultimate cut. And it like they put a lot of love and care into it, but the movie itself unfortunately just did not hold up at all, man. It's like there's just nothing that happens like really at all in the movie. And there's this random maybe 20-minute scene or so that they shot like a decade after they made the movie and then spliced it in. And that's really kind of the only interesting part of the movie. It's like it's got it's like a flashback with all these gypsies, and it kind of gets into the origin of the killer a little bit, and like it's actually relatively interesting. But the rest of the movie, like the actual movie, is just terribly boring. Like the kill scenes, they don't really show you much of anything. And like the tagline on the box says it's not human and it has an axe, but it is definitely a human and it does not have an axe. So it's just not what you think it's going to be at all. Which was a bummer.
Maybe. Yeah, that's why it was lost.
Yeah. More often than not, though.
I mean,
more often than not, like Arrow will pull these sort of obscure titles out of nowhere, and they tend to hold up pretty well. They're not all home runs by any means, but more often than not, they are. This is probably one of the worst, though. I was a little disappointed in it.
That's a drag.
I still love some Arrow Video, though. They're still Bay for sure. I watched Uncanny Annie, which is the October/Halloween release of the Hulu Into the Dark series. So this is the start of the second year.
Oh yeah,
with this episode.
Oh man,
this is the first
second
episode.
season. Here we go.
Yeah, season 2, episode 1, Uncanny Annie. It basically
Gator gotcha, granny. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. It's about these like young college kids who get together on Halloween to like play board games, basically, and they pull out this game called Uncanny Annie, and it's got this like evil little girl spirit that plays this game with you, and if you break the rules, she fucks you up, and you pull these cards that tell you to do difficult things, and if you fail, she fucks you up some more, and
Man, this is sounding like some creepypasta. It's like Channel Zero channeled into an Into the Dark show. Is it like, what's the tone of it, you think? Is it, because some of those are kind of comedic and some of them aren't.
Yeah, it's not comedic. I mean, there's like some light, funny banter between these kids because they're like, 20 years old or,
but it's not
19.
primarily for laughs. Like I keep thinking of the Treehouse one was so much for laughs that
it's not really played for laughs, and it's kind of got that like, teenage Blumhouse movie vibe, like if you watch Ouija or something, it's kind of got that vibe to it.
Okay. Cool.
It started pretty cool, and then the more you see of Annie, it's just like it gets lamer and lamer. They should have left her out of it and just had this board game kind of not have a little kid's face attached to it. Like just let crazy shit happen without this little girl who's supposed to be scary, and she's just funny, like on accident.
Yeah. Oh,
it's goofy. Not her fault. It's definitely not her fault.
Yeah. No, that was more of like a precious. Making a little girl scary can be tricky business.
True. Very
true. Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about real quick, I watched In the Tall Grass, which is that Netflix joint that just hit last Friday. It's a Joe Hill, Stephen King short story collab. I enjoyed it, man. It's.
I heard it was pretty good.
It's a solid Netflix watch for sure. I feel like it belongs on Netflix. It's got.
Which one is this? I'm sorry, I missed the title.
In the Tall Grass.
In the Tall Grass. Okay, yeah. You cut out for a second.
But it plays a lot with timelines, and you're introduced to characters, and the way they enter the story, that starts to like overlap, and it doesn't make sense, and like there's basically if you walk into this grassy field, like you just don't leave, is essentially the long and short of it.
It's the inverted Field of Dreams.
Yes. Yeah. But there's more going on. There's more going on with it for sure. I recommend it. It's good. It's pretty cool. It's mind bendy. Time is definitely a flat circle, if you will, when you're watching this. So check it out. Yeah. That's all I got. I'm going to stop talking about what I've been watching, and let's get into the main event. We're talking about Deliverance, as was chosen by Hydraberg. Hail, Hydraberg.
Yeah. Do the banjo song.
Let's dueling banjos.
Let's kick it off with the back of the box.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Nope, I played the wrong bump. The back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Professionals. What episode is this now? 45, 23.
Hey man, I'm not getting paid for this. Yeah. So we're talking about Deliverance from 1972, which is a pretty infamous movie directed by John Boorman, starring John Voight, Burt Reynolds, and some other people that I don't think I really recognize their name. Ned Beatty. So before we get into it, had you guys seen this movie before? And would you recommend people check it out? Randy, why don't you kick us off?
No, I had not seen this movie, but it's actually been on my back burner for a long time. I've been wanting to watch this movie, and it's the kind of movie where I know it by reputation. I know, like I knew about Dueling Banjos, I knew about Squeal Like a Pig, I knew about all these like beats of the movie, but I don't know much beyond that. And I've always heard it was like a fabulous movie, so it's been on the radar, but never actually got to see it. And yeah, I would recommend it. It's got some scenes that if you need a trigger warning, is not the movie for you. So like it's got some real sexual assault going on that'll fucking make you sad and upset you, and then there's some pretty good violence going on as well. Pretty much not throughout, but like it's like played really straight, so it feels more visceral because everything is sort of grounded, very very strictly grounded into reality the rest of the movie. So yeah, I would recommend it. It's got some brutality, it's got some sexual assault going on, and I think it's that reputation precedes it, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that. If you can handle those things, it's definitely worth the watch. Some really good acting, some great tone setting, all sorts of good stuff going on in this movie. So.
Cool. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, it's kind of a similar situation. I've never seen this movie before either, but it's another one of those that just has a reputation. Like Randy said, you kind of know certain things about it, which is weird because it's like, how does that like come about? Like, why do I know these things about this movie and stuff like that? So it's curious.
I can tell you why I know them.
Well, I actually don't, and it's curious to think about why and where does this stand in like society, and how have I like been made aware of it, even though I've never seen it. So it's curious to like stop and kind of think about that a little bit.
It's like osmosis, because for me, it was like the first time I remember seeing seeing beats from this movie or recognizing things from this movie or like knowing anything about this movie was watching the Tiny Toons summer special. They made they had a little possum character on the river. They were tubing down, play the fucking dueling banjos song, and I just like that stuck with me.
I used to watch that too. That Tiny Toons.
That sounds really familiar.
Special. Yeah.
They have a little like possum character hanging there playing banjo, and it's dueling fucking banjo, and it's like shit like that. It's and not probably not just that, because there's a lot of like, they don't reference the other things,
right?
But there's definitely, I mean, I'm sure SNL had its bits that use those lines. These lines are cultural touchstones, some of them, like in the way that like you shall not pass is a big thing.
This was a huge movie, and I think. I mean, largely because, Burt Reynolds was in it. Also because it was nominated for 3 Oscars. So, like a movie like this getting nominated for 3 Oscars, including the Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Film Editing. Like,
really?
People take notice of that shit, you know?
Yeah, it was beaten by Godfather.
I mean, damn.
Wow, okay. Well,
Stiff competition.
Sure. I thought I'm going to double check that to make sure I'm not lying, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
But that's why people know this movie. It was pretty infamous in a way. Like,
I didn't realize that.
It was very successful. And who doesn't love some Burt Reynolds, you know?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
So yeah, it's kind of hard to
like breakout, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to like recommend. It's not that hard to recommend. I mean, I understand like I guess why it's considered classic, and it is impressive now to know some of those things about it, because it is it's a pretty brutal movie, and it's difficult to watch. Not only in its like brutality, but also just because it is dated to me. Like I don't feel like it just like completely transcends like the test of time necessarily. Like it's in its place. Like if this movie came out like today, you know, like would it be regarded so highly? Probably not. I don't think so.
But it's got a cultural impact. I think it's got like influence.
Sure, absolutely. I'm not saying that. It's kind of hard. Like if you've never seen it before, it's hard to be like, you absolutely have to watch this movie, because it is like a hard. Like I don't know if I necessarily want to watch it again. I'm glad that I have watched it, but from that cultural standpoint and to kind of understand it better now, but it's hard to just be like, you have to see this movie, because it's a pretty tough watch.
Yeah, it is. I feel similarly, I think, to you, Justin. I'm very glad that I have finally seen it, because I've known about it like forever, but it's one of those things that it's a one and done for me, probably. Mark it off the list. I now have like that cultural touchstone, and I know exactly what people are talking about and like why it was so influential and why it's so known.
Yeah.
But like a rewatch of this, probably not, man. It's not particularly made for that either. I don't think it's trying to be that.
Yeah.
But it's good, and I do recommend it if you haven't seen it. I do. It was on Netflix. It just got pulled, which is kind of a bummer. So it's no longer super easy to find. But
I wound up renting this movie on Amazon Prime, like because it was like the day after they pulled it. It was a bummer.
Too.
Really?
Yeah.
I found it easily like on, and not even like some backwoods like streamings. Like I think because of its age, like it wasn't YouTube, but it might have been like Vimeo or something. It was on there, and it was like a good quality. If you just like really want to see it, but you're like, oh, I don't want to rent it for whatever. I have problems with like renting services here. Like Prime doesn't work here, so I have to find what I can.
It works pretty good where I'm at, so that's usually I'll go to. It's $3, so it's not the end of the world, but it's just oh fuck, this was available yesterday.
Yeah, I had it in my queue and everything. I was like, oh cool, now I'll hit that, when time comes. And I went to go hit it and it was gone. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh well.
So overall, a pretty, at least somewhat recommend.
Yeah.
Seems like
at least a light recommend, if not a strong recommend. Yeah, I'm dropping that spoiler warning, and let's go ahead and get into Deliverance. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
So I feel like most people listening to this probably know about like the main inciting incident in this movie because it is that notorious. Like everybody knows about it. So
I don't know though. I don't know because like Ray, I think the banjo thing is kind of the most obviously like the most notable thing about this. I don't know how like infamous this rape scene is.
How many times
infamous.
have you heard?
No, I mean I know it
say,
is.
Squeal like a piggy, you know, like
or you got a purty mouth.
yeah,
dude. I used to say that shit, and like I've never seen this movie. I didn't know when I saw it in this movie. I was like, "How did I know that? Like, at what point?"
people say it.
It osmosifies, man, because people heard that line, they thought it was funny, I guess, and they started using it. And then you and I, being like high school dipshits, started using it too.
Yeah,
you got a purty mouth.
you got a purty mouth.
Really, like. Yeah, no, like that's what it is. You don't have to see Titanic to know, like fucking
King of the World.
Yeah, King of the World, exactly. And this movie wasn't as big as that, but it was pretty close for its time. Like it got beat by The Godfather. That's verified now. 1972, and it was up against also Cabaret and Sounder, which are also like considered classics. And these sort of phrases, it's like box of chocolates shit. It's like Americans just latched onto these certain things. Squeal like a pig, purty mouth, and the dueling banjos. Specifically dueling banjos in regard to something menacing and backwoods. Like I remember knowing that before. Like it wasn't just knowing the song, it was knowing that it was a sign of something terrible coming. And it involved like deep redneck people. Like Hills Have Eyes level redneck. So
also for the straight chilling crew, somehow October has become inbred month because now we've got Deliverance as our first movie, and we're gonna do a dual Halloween special on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah. So it's all about the inbreds as
backwoods as fuck over here.
Which I have like a specific kind of terror, like. I don't know. We'll get into it a little bit more as we talk more.
That's about elitism, Justin.
No. Like there's something specific about this like genre of horror and these things that like kind of rings true a little bit. And we could talk about.
Let's
without getting into Texas Chainsaw. This movie is, like I said, it's so grounded. It's so grounded in reality. It feels like a trip that you might end up on with your buddies, and then something horrible happens.
So
we dropped the spoiler warning, right, Rob?
Yeah. So just to quickly tackle the plot, because it is pretty simple. So there's like 4 guys who want to go on a canoeing trip down the Cahulawassee River before it's all dammed up and turned into a lake. So they jump in their car, they go to this like remote area, they get some canoes, and they ask these locals who are relatively, backwoods folks if they'll like drive their cars down river.
There's no
you might consider them backwoods.
You would. They ask these folks to drive their cars down river and leave them there so that, at the end of their canoe trip, their cars will be there waiting. So they finally find somebody that agrees to do that, and then along their canoe trip, they feel like people might be like following them or watching them. And then at one point, one of the canoes sort of veers off and they get out of the canoe onto the bank of the river and they run into these yokels. And there's just this like horrific rape scene where they run into like these 2 backwoods yokel guys. They kill one of them
with guns.
The guys have guns. The other one runs off, and they kind of have this moral dilemma where they're trying to figure out what to do with the guy that they killed, and like if they should worry about the guy that ran off, if they should contact the police, if they should handle it themselves. So the second half of the movie is us watching these guys sort of navigate all of those issues. That's sort of like a rough overview of the plot there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Pretty much
problematic.
Like there's definitely some extra bits in there. Like the characters are like, our main character is John Voight's character, whose name escapes me, and Ned.
He's
Beatty,
the only one I can't remember. You got Drew, who plays the guitar, the dueling banjos. You got Burt Reynolds, Lewis, and you got Bobby.
Bobby
mustache.
is the quote unquote fat guy who's not that fat, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And then you've got John Voight.
He's the mustache guy with a hat. He's got the family. He's boring.
What's his name?
His name
He's
is
like
Ed.
the central character, if anybody. Yeah, it's Ed. That's right.
Is it Ed? Okay. Okay.
So
Thank you.
Ed and Bobby are the ones that get like assaulted, and Ed is almost assaulted himself, but only Ned is actually straight up, basically on-screen raped, like
Yeah.
minus the penetrative act itself.
Yeah. The character's name is Bobby.
Bobby, yeah, I know. Ned almost gets raped then after that, and then Lewis, who is like the driving force of this group, who wanted them to go down the river, and who's always talking about like, well, why you city boys come out here, sort of thing. He's the one that ends up shooting and killing the rapist, the mountain man who raped Bobby, and then they decide amongst them with an arrow, which
in
was
the chest.
Yeah, and then it's established that Ed doesn't have like a killer instinct to where he can shoot people with an arrow, and then because he can't shoot a deer with an arrow or whatever. And then like later on, Drew, as they decide, okay, we're going to try and conceal this because this is all going to be under a lake next week anyway.
Yeah.
So they all start going down river. Like, well, all we got to do is get home, and we'll be fine. And then Drew gets shot on his canoe and falls out of the canoe, and then their canoes like crash into each other. They break up. Lewis gets his leg broken up and pretty bad, and he's like to Ed, he's like, you got to take control now. He's like, you're in the game now, or whatever he says. Basically, like, oh, it's all this time they've been having this back and forth about like what it is to be a man, or what it is to like be, are we part of a game? Like all this shit, like society versus the wilderness. Like it's very much that movie.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds talks a lot about the system, quote, the system in the movie. And
right, yeah, they all do, actually.
Yeah, this movie is, it's fairly blatant in like what it's trying to convey to you. Like the first lines of the movie is like, oh, there's a character off screen, you don't see anybody, it's black, and they're just talking about like, oh, they're gonna rape this whole damn landscape, they're gonna rape it, and they're talking about building the dam and turning the river into a lake and everything. So they're, the rape of Earth essentially, and then you have like this terrible rape of human beings, and like there's parallels there obviously, and then you've also got like, quote, the system breaking down and like the social contract breaking down when you're like in the woods, which you've got this sort of reminder that we are just animals, right? So it's kind of playing with that, and just in general like how we're definitely at the mercy of like Mother Nature, because like they are definitely at the mercy of this river and the wilderness and the rocks, and like they're getting beat to hell. I thought it was go down this river. Yeah, I
thought it was pretty interesting that Lewis, the Burt Reynolds character, was simultaneously like the most headstrong motherfucker in the world, just like egging people on and being a dick to Bobby for no reason and shit like that. But at the same time, he's like the voice of nature. Like he's the one that's like all about conservation and shit. Like it's not a trope you see combined. There's aren't two tropes you usually see in the same character, where you see the environmentalist, not anymore anyway. Environmentalist.
Well, and not only that, yeah, but he also is kind of the ones who not necessarily like sticks out, but he's more of like the humanist as well. He kind of like treats the yokels with the most respect, I guess, or just he's like, when the other dudes show up, they show up, the first thing they're like driving, they show up, they gotta like, this planet, like the 70s apparently does not make sense to our generation. It doesn't make sense to me, because their whole thing is like, I'm gonna show up to this place I've never been. I guess it exists. It's like this small town of literally like a handful of people, and they're all like backwoods, and he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna have them drive our cars to another place I've never been and leave them there, and I'm gonna give them money to do it.
$30, so
40,
and I'm gonna haggle
40
with them. Not only am I
like treat them like shit to do it, like
a little bit, yeah,
like hardball.
So like, okay, this world doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
I don't think. But he's still like the other dudes, when they show up to this town, they have to like kind of park and like get their bearings and like ask around. They have to get some gas and stuff, and like ask like, oh, are there any drivers in town that would be willing to do this? And And the other guys are just kind of like shitting all over everything. They're like, oh, these people, and like, what are we doing here? Let's go play golf. And like, like they kind of are like smug, kind of arrogant pieces of shit a little bit. Like from the
they all are, but just in different ways. It's crazy.
Yeah, whereas like Burt Reynolds, like, yeah, he's kind of just a general, like he's got like a general asshole demeanor, but in like ways of like, you're right, he's like, oh, the wilderness, and that's where men belong. But it's also like this weird like machoism.
It is, it's very machismo driven. But it's also he treats like
the locals. He doesn't like disrespect them because they're like.
He isn't instantly fearful of them or instantly distrustful of them.
Yeah,
that's
he's
where
just
he differs from
himself.
Everyone else. Yeah.
He's like he's still kind of shitty, but.
Yeah. And it comes from a place of, I think I can handle whatever. I can handle these dipshits. But it's also like, it doesn't necessarily come from like, yeah, these guys are backwoods, but I don't, he's not like stuck on that aspect of it. He's not stuck on it being like they're defining, like that they can't have a conversation or they can't haggle.
And he trusts them because even one of the other guys is like, what if our cars like don't end up like there? And he's like, oh,
it's a fair concern.
Absolutely. Like starting the movie off this way, I was like, what? Like, was that the world? Like, let me just
was that
find some guys to drive.
That's
my
part
car.
Of the machismo too. Like
what? And then leave it in this city I've never been.
Like you got to be pretty trusting. What's interesting about that is
my car gonna be.
What's interesting about that is in order for you to think that won't be just you giving somebody money to steal your truck, you have to kind of believe in the system, don't you? Because you have to believe, or at least that a man's agreement is a system, a social contract. So like in his own way, he's playing by rules, but he's playing by rules of like a more primal version of the system, I guess, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Did you guys see this as being a horror movie at all?
I want to talk about that.
I mean, I yes and no. I mean, like every movie, like is any movie fucking horror really? Like is any movie one thing?
Yes, Randy.
Like
Annabelle creation.
This.
Defining horror.
When I first put this on, I was watching it through the lens of a horror movie because that's what we talk about, obviously. And I was like, okay, well, let's see. I've never seen this before. Let's see what's going on here. So, like the first half of the movie definitely reminded me of like had similar beats of like any given slasher movie. You got this group of people going out to the woods, the middle of nowhere. They're going to take a little adventure. Do something different they never done before. They meet some locals. They're kind of weird, not super scary, but something might be a little off, They get on the river. They're going down. They feel like somebody's watching them. Maybe somebody's following them. They hear stuff in the woods. It's kind of creepy. And then you get to that middle part of the movie where like there's that insane rape scene and it sort of like changes and it becomes like essentially just like a rape revenge film, which I have like limited experience in that subgenre.
Is it revenge though? Like there is definitely some shade and fruit when you watch that dude get an arrow through his chest, but they're not going out to find the other guy. They're not chasing him down. They are just trying to get out of that scenario at first, and then one of them gets shot.
They do chase him down. Like they go out of their way to make sure that they kill him before he kills them.
The second one?
Yeah, the second guy, yeah. They climb all the way up
How
that
do they
ridge specifically.
Oh, that's because they're
him.
trapped.
Well, that's because
they are physically trapped in a gorge.
Yeah.
At first, though, their plan is to just go down the river and get to civilization and then go home.
Yeah. But they do chase him down. At some point, anyways, they chase him.
They literally can't even move Lewis at that point. I don't think they're afraid to because they just got shot at.
Yeah.
So
I had this similar like kind of thing, like, we're obviously talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre later this month. And one thing I've always liked about that is so grounded, but even that has like different beats of horror. This, if you're going to talk about where does this fit in like the horror spectrum, or are we going to regard it as horror? I think about movies like Last House on the Left or Dig Your Own Grave, or what is that?
Spit on Your Grave.
I Spit on Your Grave. God. Yeah. Thank you, Bob. I think about those movies, which are like kind of the rape revenge type things, but more so like not necessarily from that aspect, but a little bit of it, because I wouldn't pin it to like, oh, both those movies have rapes and like people seek revenge on them. I put it more in like the grounded aspect of horror and like where people are the monsters and not like some like Michael Myers chase. Should I stop?
No, you're
Bob?
good. Keep going.
No, he's
Okay. Like I'm going to chase you like with a knife or whatever. And it's like the real world horrors of where like everything that you watch, even in like Last House on the Left and stuff like that, feels plausible to the fact of you're like, you can't trust people, you can't trust the system. And that's a horrifying truth if it's true, like, because they even concern themselves with like, we can't go, like they have this big long discussion, like they've killed this guy. And they're like, we can't go to the cops, like, because look where we are. What are we going to get a trial? And who's going to stand trial? You know, like who's going to be our jury? All these people are related. Like, also this town's going to be destroyed. Like, who are we even going to be judged by? Like, what? Like, they kind of go through this whole thing, but just
it's a drama, man.
It is, but like I mean, I think like Last House on the Left is considered like a classic type of horror. So like, if you consider I Spit on Your Grave and those types of movies as like classic horror, I think this movie fits right along in with them, like on that level, because the horrifying aspect is the groundedness of it, and like the horrifying things that happen to the people in them. So like I put it in that spectrum.
I think it's fair to call it a horror, but like I gotta be honest, like the question of whether or not something is horror or not just doesn't play for me, because everything's a blend of something. So like there's horrific elements in this. It's at least a drama. You could call it a thriller. You could call it a horror. You could call it any number of things. It's not a comedy though. So like, I mean, it's not, I know what it's not. It's not a comedy. It's not a romantic movie. This is a movie about men versus wilderness versus each other. And that's really all it has to be for my taste.
Yeah. Whenever I get asked that question, or I have to think, I think it's interesting from a social standpoint, because obviously some things get like stuck in our head, like even talking about like, how do we know about this movie and why is it stuck in our head? Mm-hmm. And like things that come from society. I think it's interesting. Like even when we talked about like Jurassic Park, is it horror? And so I don't really care, because anybody could say like, yes, it's horror. Yes, it's not. I think it's interesting from a society standpoint of where we like lash on these things. Like if I were to say like, you know, like I Spit on Your Grave or Last House on the Left, like I feel like those movies stick out in people's minds as like horror movies. Like, oh yes, that's a horror.
Yeah.
And you know, aspect, nobody thinks like, oh, I Spit on Your Grave is like a drama or whatever. But like all the same kind of beats of that movie are in this movie. So why is it that like
in the gore?
I think it's actually pretty. I mean, maybe say, yeah, there might be some. I just think it's interesting how some things just like latch on. It's like that. Absolutely. That's a horror classic, like Jaws horror classic or whatever. And it's like Jurassic Park, like, that's not horror at all.
I think you could definitely call this a horror.
Why do we think that?
I think that like the reason, one of the things about like genrefying things and deciding whether or not something's a genre or not is things like sci-fi and to a greater extent horror are seen as incapable of having a subtext
quality,
or something something deeper going on. Like the fact that it is a quality movie worthy of an Academy nomination probably makes some fart sniffers out there say, no, it's not horror.
Absolutely.
It's a drama.
Yeah.
But I think there's a blend going on where you could say that it's definitely multiple of those things. And to me, it ends up being unimportant. And the only reason to even get into that argument is if you want to like call out fart sniffers, and I just don't care what they think.
The only reason I brought it up here is because we're a horror podcast. But
no, absolutely, I like
it's
the
a fair question for us, but for me, it's like it doesn't add anything for me to label it in a way that I find appropriate.
Yeah. I agree. Outside of this context, it's sort of unnecessary. But I think it's interesting to look at it through that lens, specifically when the rape revenge genre is like a very defined subgenre of horror movies, to like slap that onto this and say, maybe not. I don't know. It's got some similarities, but some things don't line up. A couple years ago,
I remember like having an argument spurred by an article that was suggested that suggested that The Witch isn't a horror film, and I'm still baffled by that. I'm like, I was like, oh, it's not. It's a drama. It's a period piece. It's like the fucking baby was ground up in a mill. What do you fucking want? There's witches in this movie.
Spoiler.
Satan's
Baby butter.
like that happens in the first 5 minutes of the goddamn movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like it's such a fruitless endeavor to try to convince people that horror is actually can be have subtext or have even like this movie doesn't have like it's not like it's very well hidden subtext. They say it outright so many times. They're very blatant with what this movie is truly about.
Yeah.
But it's being told like using horror elements and using dramatic elements. And if somebody who is told their whole lives that horror movies are purely schlock, then they're going to think, no, it's not schlock, so it's not horror.
Yeah,
and I just don't think it's like you're not going to talk those people out of that. I don't think
it's so silly because even like the old school, like Universal horror movies, like horror, the monster movies, like they all have subtext. They're not just like fright flicks, So like. To think that it's just impossible is people, people who say that.
Well, those were based on like
genre.
characters where like the subtext was already established. I guess like Frankenstein, like but it's people also talk about like the literally like the depth of like the books and stuff like that.
Sure,
but
I'm pretty sure that feeling.
I'm not trying to.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Like that, but like I think that really more comes from the fact that horror movies were for so many years the cheaply produced way to get teenagers in seats and make money.
It's because it is a different aspect of
because it can be cheap. It can lack subtext, and God knows, I would say a majority of movies in general, and certainly of horror movies, probably don't have very strong subtext. Certainly not enough to warrant it being elevated beyond anything other than a schlock fest. But and that has its own value. But that's how somebody who is determined to see schlock as something inherently negative and inherently unworthy of critique, they're not going to care. They're not going to care. They're just going to see it as that. And if it starts to edge on something more important than that or more interesting than that, they're going to... That's why I respect the shit out of Jordan Peele saying these are horror movies that I'm putting out.
Yeah,
not dramas or whatever. It's because he's like, I think that's the point he's making is that these aren't, you can't take the good and ignore what you don't like or ignore the genre and say that it's anything less than it is because it can be this or it can be even deeper than this. Like you can have all sorts of things going on, and I'm not going to tolerate people, disrespecting the whole field that I'm operating in. I appreciate it.
True. That was a bit of a tangent, but still interesting and valid points, I think.
I would like to talk go a little more in depth about like the understanding of the story. So they go to the backwoods thing, and that's where you have the dueling banjos, and it's just kind of established that there's like two like threats, I guess. One is just like these backwoods hillbilly people. And then the second is nature, the river itself. So what happens is the first threat comes in the form of the canoe veers off and Ed and Bobby get taken by these two backwoods guys who are not the people from the beginning. And I thought that was a cool kind of like subversion of this movie. It's like you kind of, because of the way that they treat the people in the beginning, like, they kind of treat them like disrespectfully, or they kind of like are kind of smug about it. You kind of think like, oh, those people are going to screw them over. Like, why would they take this money, take this car? Like, they're going to be the ones who like hunt them down, or like, this is what you get for treating me horribly. But it's not. It's just two other random guys, and it's implied that one of the reasons they kind of take them is that they're probably like maybe up to some illegal activity in the backwoods. So it's kind of like some of those movies where people like stumble upon an island and people are growing like drugs out there, and like they like got to kill you to keep it quiet or whatever. So Bobby and Ed get taken there, and Bobby gets raped while Ed is tied to a tree. And then what they're going to do then is they're going to rape Ed once they're finished, once they were done with Bobby. By then, though, Lewis has strolled up and has kind of crept up on him and waits for them to they only have one gun. He waits for him to like pass the gun to the other guy and shoots that guy. So that dude's dead, but another Jokel like gets away. And so then that's when they have their whole big discussion is like, Lewis wants to just get rid of the body. He's like, we are in the middle of nowhere. They're about to like flood this whole valley. There's literally going to be like no evidence. We can't take this body with us. The police are going to not believe us. We're going to be like tried, and all the people that like are going to know these people. We're not going to get a fair trial.
And they shot the guy in the back.
Yeah, they shot a guy in the back, and they're also like, it's kind of like their word against, our word versus theirs. And also, there was another aspect of it too. I don't know. I can't remember. Something like he's got this kind of like main argument. Whereas the other guy, Drew, who was not involved like in the sexual assault or rape, he's like, no, like we have to, if we hide this and we're caught, that's even worse. Like, we have to, this guy's obviously the guy and somebody's going to be looking for him. Like, is the guy we let escape? Like, is he going to go get the police? Is he going to go get like some more of his friends? Like, we're going to get caught. Like, we need to at least have like a defense. Like, no, we were justified in killing this man. They were being assaulted. So they have this back and forth. Ed and Bobby, the ones who were actually assaulted, decide to go with Lewis. Like, we're going to put it to a vote. So they bury the guy who they killed, and then they go down river, and it's kind of unclear what happens next, but something happens to Drew, the guy who wanted to take the body to the police. He either gets shot or he like can't deal with what they've done.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Something happens. He's in the front canoe, so they're going down these rapids. He's in the front canoe, in the front of the front canoe, and he literally at some point just like falls over out of the canoe, which causes that canoe to like kind of go sideways and wrecks everything. Like the canoe that's behind them that's carrying like Lewis and Bobby, it crashes into them. They all like go flying down these rapids. So Lewis's leg gets fucked up, and it's a simple effect, but it was like,
it's visceral.
It was fucking me up. Like, yeah, I was like, ugh, because it looks like kind of his bone is popping out of his leg, but it just looks like this like slab of floppy meat. Like it's gnarly looking.
It is.
So Lewis is kind of like the macho man, like he's got the bow and arrow, and he's gonna go like, yeah, he's getting them food and stuff like that. So he's fucked up. He can't move. Drew, they lose track of him. He's gone. So it's pretty much Bobby, who's like pretty useless, and Ed, who's like kind of like the middleman. He like goes on camping trips sometimes, but he's also like from the city. So they think that Drew got shot, and the guy who shot him is the guy who got away, and he's at the top of this cliff. So then Ed has to fucking climb this cliff to like confront the guy, because otherwise like they can't move. And it just so happens the guy is up there, and Ed shoots him in the throat with an arrow, and then
after
also
failing.
Yeah, and also like shoots himself, or like he falls on his own arrow.
He falls on an arrow like in his
which
gut,
like pierces
too,
him through like his side. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then that dude's dead. That's the two guys who assaulted them are now dead. So he climbs back down the cliff, I guess, which that whole scene was kind of rough too, because like he's just like climbing up this steep ass cliff with his bare hands and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they get Lewis, and Lewis is real fucked up at this point. He almost like died in the night.
He's like shivering and shit. Like he's probably pretty close to death.
And then so him and Bobby and Lewis get in the canoe, and they go down the river. They find Drew, and then that was pretty fucked up too. So the guy who
that
like
effect
passed
was so
out,
good.
Yeah,
he's just like caught up in the rapid.
Tangled and mangled.
It's like his shoulder is clearly dislocated and flopped over backwards, and that is such a strong effect. I was like, that looks real to me.
It was, because there was no
as somebody who doesn't.
But his whole
blood, I guess, would have been washed away. So it was just a dead body with his fucked up structure.
Yeah, the arm was just, it looks so real. Like that, you know, like when people like get in wrecks and like, or stuff like that, like the real like terror of like death and like just these, how you can get fucked up in an accident like this. And another like thing that they have to deal with is they find Drew. And they're like, was he shot? They can't find any bullet wounds. So now they've like killed this guy who just so happened to be on the cliff, which is a little bit of a
he's missing the same teeth as the guy that assaulted him. But it seems like they're still not sure.
Yeah, they kind of go back and forth. They're like, was he shot? Was this the guy who assaulted us? Or was this just some dude wwho was up on the cliff? Like, they're not sure about the same dentures. Yeah, so they have to like deal with this whole like their friend is dead. They've now killed 2 people, and now they're kind of suspect as far as like, you know, like, are we criminals? Are we like, you know, like what we're trying to survive and shit. So it's got a lot of interesting aspects. And then they get to the town. It kind of drags its ass a lot. Like after that, like it was still like another.
I don't know, man.
The 15 minutes once they get back
maybe
to the town,
a little.
I was like, holy shit.
Maybe a little, but the trauma of it is the whole thing. That shot at the end of the hand resurfacing out and then having John Voight wake in a cold sweat, but it wasn't done like any sort of jumpy scare. It was very like, it was just like a really low rumbling soundtrack going on, electronic sort of thing. And then like the hand comes up and then he just sort of like kind of pops out of bed in the same shot and it fades away. It's so strong to me because like any other movie that's going to pull that at the end of their movie, especially like over the last several years, the easiest and most like obvious way to handle that is to have a hand jump out at you or have him pop out of his bed real quick with a sound sting, and then you get one last dumb scare before the end. It's a time-honored tradition at this point, and it's like, to me, more effective to see it played slowly and methodically because it to me, it was evocative of what an actual dream is like when you have a nightmare that you are so scared of because it feels so real. You pop up out of your bed, you're looking around like, is this real? What's real? And then it fades away and you start to get, reality starts to come back slowly. It's not an instantaneous recovery from that. So I thought that like was an effective like use of that. And I have some information about that too later on, but the whole thing is like, I loved, and they also like, the sheriff of the town is clearly suspicious of them. Like it's pretty clear, but he doesn't have anything, and they know that.
But their suspicions were correct because the deputy or whatever, like the set, is related to the guy who's missing. So he's like, oh, his brother or something is missing. So like, what?
But that doesn't mean he's not the guy who assaulted them.
No, yeah. So, but like, so they're so, it's like, it is like so nuanced. Like, I really, you know, you get these movies where they're like, oh, we killed someone, we're going to hide the body, we're going to get up. Yeah. This felt like a true, like, holy shit, all of this shit, my life just changed in the past. Legit, it takes like 5 minutes. They showed in real time, like, oh, we were in a canoe. Oh, we got off here. We ran into some guys. All of a sudden, my friend's getting raped in front of my eyes. All of a sudden, another dude's dead. And I have to decide, like, do I hide a body now? Like right now, some other dude's out there and like could be coming back to kill me. It felt so real. Like, holy shit, this is a reality. Yeah. What am I going to do?
That's one of the main things about it is that it's just a thing that like it's very feasible that something like this could happen. Like you,
I could see myself like
in the woods. Yeah. That want to assault people. Like that's all you need.
You ground yourself to the character of Ed, and it all feels so plausible. I'm sitting there like thinking like, oh my god, what? Like I've been on a camping trip with my friends. Like what if I was tied to a tree and my friend's getting raped over there, and then a dude dies in front of me, and then I'm almost raped, and then I have to hide a body. It's like, what would I do? Like
that's the
what
thing
would
is
I
like,
do? Like
and
I'd probably hide the body
hide
too.
that
like,
body.
You know, get out of here.
That's the interesting thing about how it ends.
With that, like after the fact, it's like I feel like I would make all the same decisions as Ed. Like, sure, I want to survive.
You would have all the same trauma.
Exactly. Like, oh shit,
you don't get away with like
killing a guy, and you have to deal with the fact that you watched your friend get raped, and you have to deal with like Lewis almost loses leg, and you have to deal with the fact that like your friend died. He's got to go like tell Drew's
the voice
wife,
of reason, like the person you rejected. in order to, out of fear, to protect yourself. You have to deal with all that, and you have to deal with not knowing for sure if you killed the right guy, because you killed the guy. You have to deal with whether or not it was even the result of another attack or not.
Yeah,
like whether or not the like Drew was shot or he just fell out or threw himself out was what I thought was happening at first. When I saw him fall out, I thought he was like just like not able to cope, and he threw himself into the rapids. Which I don't know if that's what happened or if that makes sense really, even for his character, even though he was in distress. I don't know if he would do that or not, but like that's that question, that the fact that it still lingers is part of the trauma. Like that's what's interesting to me is like Lewis is advocating for anti-system or like the great game as he calls it, or the game, and Ned and the rest are like all about the system and how they trust the system, all this stuff. But once you start playing the game, once you start doing the things that you do to survive rather than doing the things that you know work for the system, you still have to cope with those things. Like that's what's, like you don't get to go without paying a price. So I think like you may not go to jail, but you're still fucking waking up in cold sweats every night. You're still having nightmares.
You're in brain
because
jail.
you don't know if you've like killed a guy for like you went from somebody who couldn't shoot a deer to somebody who shot a guy dead within the span of a day. So I mean, how do you cope with it? And is coping with it the natural way of like getting a comeuppance, or is there even such thing as like there's all sorts of questions you could ask because of this. I think that's what's so strong about it.
Yeah. You guys have any other major points you want to hit on before we rate this thing?
I want to say one more thing just about the like something that I felt as far as like horror, because like I was saying, you ground yourself to that Ed character. One like final thing that not only does he wake up in the cold sweat, but there's this moment where the sheriff, so and they once everybody's dead and before they head back to the town, they have to like get their story straight and they have to deal with the situation. So they find Drew and they like sink his body down, like they like tie ropes to his clothes and shit, and like so it sinks. So do they do the same thing with the yokel guy? Like
I think that's who they do that to. Jokel? I think Drew just slips off in the rapids. I think.
Does he? Okay. So one scene that followed that up that gave me like true like horrific anxiety since I was like linked to the Ed character is when they're combing the river. So they meet the sheriff and there's the sheriff and like, like, oh, like they could find this body and like you're with the character and just like that truly felt like I felt like the pit in my stomach. Like when you've got like, like, oh shit, like you could get caught or like, oh, like this, and it would change your, like that feeling of like, am I going to get away with this? Like, oh shit. And like, I don't know. I just thought they did a good job of capturing that or making me feel for that character. Like, is he going to get caught? Are they going to find this body? And if they do, because that's a dead giveaway, they tied rocks to his like belt loops.
He would be red-handed. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like an arrow through his throat. Like, so
it's just that thing of like, even if everything goes to plan, it doesn't mean you're getting off without a price. And also I was thinking about this a second ago, like this nowadays, this is like, except for the rape scene, which is obviously pretty brutal. I think that this movie is like, I could imagine this movie being, or parts of this movie being like a fucking Harold and Kumar comedy or some shit where it's played for laughs and then everything works out. And then like, I could see like all these like transgressive comedies and things.
You ever seen that?
I've never saw that. Is it
actually?
It's like this, without a rape.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I'll bet you this is like 15 years too late inspiration of mine. But it's just like this, it's this idea that like oh my god, like we're doing something illegal because we kind of have to. Back to this tricky situation. If we just make dick and fart jokes the whole time, all of a sudden this is a fucking stoner comedy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you just take out the rape part, again, that's really kind of, that kills most comedy, I would say.
What?
Yeah.
Well,
call me old fashioned.
Let's rate this bad boy out of 5.
Let's do it.
Randy, why don't you kick us off? How you feeling about Deliverance?
I'm going to give this a strong 4. And I like, I feel pretty good about that score. It's not like a movie that I feel like conceals. I think it does a lot of more telling than showing than I would like it to with some of its themes. Everybody uses the same terminology of the system, and I think that's kind of like, okay, well, clearly this is fucking important. You guys don't have to hammer it home so hard. Things like that, like little things kind of like detract for me. And it's also just kind of hard to watch, like at some parts. Like just on an aesthetic level, it's like just that rape scene is very tough to watch. It's very, very brutal. And like you guys said, I don't know that I'd watch it again unless I was like really wanted to show somebody how good it is or something. That's the only situation I can imagine wanting. I would never like a spot like be like, I could watch that again right now. Like I would never like choose to watch it. But it's also like the theming is strong, the characterizations, or like rather the whatever. The tone is great, the acting is great, the theming is great, and like just like using the themes and just sort of like the hanging questions are so fun to ponder. This conversation has been great because they did such a good job with that. So I give it a 4. I think it's definitely worth a watch, not necessarily 2, but I think that I can see why it was such a strong contender in the Academy at the time, even though, I don't put much stock in by way of those awards. But, even that said, I mean, it deserves some recognition for its work, I think, especially because it also like solidified a bunch of tropes, not just like idioms like the purdy mouth and all that shit, squeal like those things came out of it and were like cultural touchstones. But then there's also some like impact in terms of filmmaking as well, which I can get into a little bit with the trivia later. But I think it's really strong on so many different levels and only kind of weak on a few. 4 sounds good to me.
Cool. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, when I was done watching this movie, I kind of said to myself, like, I was like, oh, that was it? Like, as far as like as far as story goes, because it's pretty like straightforward, like and for a movie that's like an hour and 40 minutes, it like I was kind of like, oh, it's done, like that's it. Like they go on a canoe trip, this bad shit happens, they kill this guy, they get back to the city or they get back to the town, like that's it. So it's pretty straight, but like talking about this movie, I like there is a lot of depth to this movie, and I've enjoyed like thinking about it and talking about it. Not to the point I don't really want to watch this movie again because it is like a harsh watch, but I think it is well made, and I think it does have a lot of depth to it. And yeah, I don't know. I think I actually like it's raised my just kind of appreciation of this film, just kind of talking it through today. I will say something that we didn't really talk about, the dueling banjos, and specifically this scene, because it's like at the beginning and like with the kid who's like this kind of like inbred, maybe I feel kind of bad saying that because he's like a real person, but like he's this like fucked up looking kid.
I've seen an interview with that guy.
Oh, really? But, but anyways, like that one, the song, like it makes me squirm. Like it really like, and not only does the song like kind of make me squirm, the scene where they play the song, it's so slow, like the progression of the song, like and the kid plays it, almost drives me fucking mad. Like almost like drives me insane. Like that scene alone to start this movie, I'm just like, it's like a visceral, like, oh my God. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant, but it truly like upsets me.
It also slaps
my ass.
That's my job right there.
This movie does a lot well. It is hard to watch. It is like kind of dated in a lot of ways. But overall, very respectable. I'm going to give it a 4 as well.
A 4 from Old Juice Stains.
Old Juice Stains.
They're so old. Math.
Hard to get out. Juice Stains.
Mathing. So,
what do you think about this movie? What do you want to rate it?
Let me tell
you. How can we make fun
I'd
of
be
you.
a terrible host.
Let
We
me
need to
tell
do
you.
an episode where we all like trade responsibilities.
I'm actually down. I am 100% down for that. I like that idea a lot.
The fact that you're down makes me wonder if I want to do that.
That's awesome. I like this movie a lot, man. I appreciate it more than I am able to enjoy it because it's like, the story overall is not necessarily meant to be enjoyable. I think it's more of a thinker, more to give you something to chew on. I kind of look at this almost as like an adult version of Lord of the Flies in a way, where you just kind of, you have these people in the woods away from like, everyday society and like quote the system, and you just kind of have people do what they will, and obviously a lot of these actions are actions that we wouldn't normally do, right, in polite society. So it's like the system is only good if everybody involved like believes and participates in said system. So like when you get out in the middle of the woods, fair game, right?
All bets are off.
So it's interesting to just ponder these things and like how we really are, like, it's easy to forget that we have that in us, and to watch these people sort of, I guess, act on the worst parts of their nature is just like very difficult to watch, and being reminded that you have that in you is like also difficult to swallow, but it's interesting as hell, and I think they deliver
and to
it.
relate to it,
Right.
like be like, oh
Right.
shit, yeah, I probably would do that.
Yeah, because that's the thing about this
They have
movie.
to back the characters into a corner to make it happen.
Sure,
Yeah.
but you definitely, when you're
That's-
watching this and they have that dilemma, like, do we hide this body or do we call the cops and explain everything that happened and like why we killed this guy? Like, you put yourself in that situation, like, what would I do? Like, that's like the sort of the apex of the movie, I guess, and that's probably the most interesting part, where you're like having that internal debate, like, what the fuck would I do? If I was in that spot. So it's just an interesting.
What would you do,
movie.
Bob?
Dude, I think I'd hide that body.
Dude, I'd hide it too.
Hide that body.
I'd be like, nah. Which, it's interesting that you brought up Lord of the Flies, because it's at that point you're almost saying like, yeah, I'm Ralph, or like I would like go the way. Wait, Ralph's the bad guy, right?
No,
that's-
that's
Lord of the Flies.
oh shit.
Anyways.
I had to look.
Anyways,
No, Ralph's
I'm the
main
bad
character.
guy. Essentially, like, oh shit, like maybe I would be the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This movie just gives you a lot to contemplate, and just like man versus nature, man versus man, the system breaking down. None of these themes are like groundbreaking, but it's interesting to see them like layered and presented in a very grounded, very real way. And to see Burt Reynolds without a mustache, it took me like 5 minutes to realize that was Burt Reynolds. I was like, oh fuck, that's Burt Reynolds. I was like, wait,
He's not Magnum yet.
I know. I was
But
like,
the burns, dude.
The burns, yeah.
were kicking. Holy
By the way,
shit.
Jack is the villain,
Jack is the villain,
the cult leader or whatever you want to call him.
yeah.
Lord of the Flies.
But yeah, I enjoyed this movie, and I'm glad that I watched it. I don't know, for some reason I'm feeling like a 3.5 on this one. I think mainly because it is like such a difficult watch, but I think the themes presented and the way they are presented, they're very successful in doing that. So you kind of have that balance that we've talked about before. It's like, the success of the film and the enjoyment of the film, and how do you weigh those two things in our personal ratings? It's hard to merge them, but I'm feeling like a 3.5 here, I think, for me.
It's true. I hear what you're saying too, like, because it's tough to rate this movie for entertainment value. I kind of think that, like, considering the necessary plot points they kind of had to cover to tell the story, the entertainment value is pretty strong because the acting is strong.
It is.
Some of the characters are endearing. I think most of them are endearing, except for Lewis. Actually, Lewis is kind of a piece of shit to
Kind of
begin
a
with.
dick.
I actually think the only one who is in any way like relatable is Ed. Honestly, I hated everybody.
Oh, really? Bobby was a little whiny, but he's kind of like Bobby Hill to me. I see him as a Bobby Hill. It's just like, yeah, you're a little useless, but you're fun to have around. And then Drew, I like watching him play with that kid. I was like, well, he doesn't like hate these people. He wants to like be involved. Like, he's trying to strike up a rapport. They're kind of rejecting him, and he's taking it with grace. I like Drew. All right.
I almost forgot to mention this, and we have to mention it. So Bobby, like whenever they're on their canoe trip, that the first night they stop, they build a little camp, they build a fire, and they're drinking and cutting up or whatever. And Bobby has this inflatable air mattress, and he calls it an instant broad, and he acts like he's gonna take it in the woods to fuck it, and that's when they think somebody's in the woods watching them.
Bobby is like every fat kid you've ever known. As that's truly what it is. It's like, let me make a funny joke since I know I'm holding everybody back.
Yeah.
My instant broad. Anyway, yeah, I had to mention that. So I think I'm going with a 3.5. That's going to put our aggregate at a 3.8, which is pretty solid. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Deliverance.
Certified fresh to death.
Take it away, Juice.
All right, boys, let's hop into it. There is no critic consensus. However, we have a total count of 58 critics who have rated Deliverance from 1972. So let's go around the table and see who can get closest to the overall score. Randy, kick us off. What do you think the rating is for Deliverance?
How many people you said? How many rankings?
58 critics.
So it only takes like 5 to put it down to 90. I would say 90.
90? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
6.
Yeah. 90 from Randy. Bob, what do you think?
I think it's like absurdly stupid high, crazy high. 97.
97.
Yeah.
Randy is going to take it, but just by a scope. It is certified fresh. 93%. So Bob off by 1.
Almost.
Yeah. Yep. So yes, very, very high. It is. Yeah. I wonder if, I mean, this movie is good. It feels maybe a little like bandwagony. There is no critic consensus. See, like this top critic says, each of the 4 lead performances is exceptional. None more so than Burt Reynolds' beefy, superfluous Lewis. I don't like the acting was good. And like it was good enough, but like I wouldn't be like that's the like comparing this like to The Godfather. I wouldn't be like that's a performance. It's more like this how the story's told.
Yeah. They do what
and
they
like
need to
the
do.
situation.
The acting is really good to me, but I don't think that Burt was the standout. That's kind of my problem with that statement.
Yeah,
I don't think that they're as good as the Godfather.
Fine.
I think it's fair to say that the Godfather has better acting based on my recollection of the movie, but that's because that's one of the like best acted films of all time, and so like it's you're really really high bar when you're trying to lap the goddamn Godfather. So I would say my problem with that is just that I think that Reynolds did a good job, but I think that actually Jon Voight, who I don't really like in most anything else that I've seen him in, I think he did the best job out of everybody in that movie. And it was because he was the central focus and because the story was so strong and because he acted his ass off doing it. You got to give him credit for it.
Another top critic says it's a haunting, nightmarish vision. See, that's what more I agree. Like the situation is terrible. Yeah,
that's definitely the stronger part. It's stronger than the acting. The situation is stronger.
Yeah, it is high though, 93%. Let's get into the audience score. Oozer ratings, 49,000 people have rated this film on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's reverse. And Bob, you can start first. What do you think the critics what do you think the Oozers rated this?
I think it's definitely lower because this is a difficult movie to watch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with like an 80. I'll take 80.
80. All right. Randy.
I mean, yeah, that would have probably been my guess too. I'm going to go with 85. I happen to know from like watching an interview that some of the folks from that area don't really shine to this movie as well as everyone else. Shockingly. I would give it I'll say an 85, but there's probably a pretty good contingent of people saying nah to this shit.
Yeah. Again, 1 point away. Rob's gonna take it. It's an 82. So literally just 1 point difference.
Damn.
That's funny. So yeah, 82 overall, very high. One thing, maybe I'll talk about it more in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I was talking about like how I'm kind of scared of like backwoods people. I have some family from Southern Alabama. So I have
Oh,
seen,
no
like,
wonder you're afraid.
well, no, I've seen that like place like this, like where it almost feel like lawlessness, like this small town where you kind of feel isolated, like as a reality. Like I've stood there and been like, oh my God, like, holy shit, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. To the point, it more kind of relates to like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But some of my family lives in literally like this crazy small town where there's this old like peanut factory that literally kept the town going, and it's like gone now. Like it's just it's the old building, and so now it's just like this kind of dead town where like people still live, and you're like, why? But that place used to like scare me so much.
The peanut factory or the general area?
The peanut factory, but also just kind of just the general area, because you do get out in the middle of the woods and like people are doing like what they please. Like, oh, we're gonna shoot our, and they say like as a positive, like we're gonna go shoot our guns, we're gonna go ride our 4-wheelers, and it's like cool. But when you like think about it, you're like, oh shit, if something were to like go down or something, like it's kind of
even
like,
if you were to crash an ATV, like it'll probably be a few months before you get found.
Yeah, or some. So it's just
unless
like
somebody's looking for you.
It is like the reality. I have like stood in the reality and been like,
Dude.
oh wow, like this is kind of like a dead ghost town, and the people out here are like kind of stuck here, and also like it's a little bit of lawlessness. Like it's kind of scary. Like
let me tell you a story here.
In a way,
in response to this is not a that story is a misleading term, but let me tell you about the time I visited a town, which I'm going to actually refrain from naming for fear that I'm going to like have this all wrong and be told about myself later. But let me tell you about my impression of this town, northern Georgia, that I went through on the way to a family reunion. Yeah, it's exactly what you described. Basically, it's exactly what you described. Plus, we stopped in at a goddamn Piggly Wiggly, which it smelled entirely like cow shit in that building inside of the grocery store. And we went there looking for booze to take with us because we were going to go to a family reunion, and afterwards we'd want to decompress. And they just didn't sell it, which, you know, is a thing. Like state by state is a little different, but like, you know, teetotaling sort of situation there. But also like the meth teeth were there. Like it when you're talking about, it used to be that like a small town like this, like people would be scared for like Deliverance reasons or whatever. But to me, it's more like this is a town full of people that may or may not have anything to do all day long, may or may not have a job, may or may not like lawlessness. Yeah, I would say so. There's opioid crisis affects like these small towns more than anybody else because people don't have anything to do. They don't have even like in a lot of cases they don't have jobs, or they don't like, and that's a stereotype or whatever, but like not everybody's like that or whatever, but even there's just sort of a sense of isolation that makes people want to be a little more reckless with their bodies, it seems like.
Well, and also
but
as
the
an
state
outsider,
itself
you
is way
recognize
teetotaling
it.
because it's evangelical leaning, which is a weird thing. Yeah, and as an outsider, like I see a lot of like we saw a lot of meth teeth. That's really the story. We saw a lot of meth teeth. And I was
just like there's a true fear when you show up to a place like that and you're like, I'm going to go to the grocery store to buy some booze. And you realize you're like in a situation where you're like, if something happened, I'm the outsider here. Like I literally, like in a span of 5 minutes, your life could absolutely change. And you could find yourself in the jail of a small town meth teeth crooked sheriff. Or, like, it's true. Like, it's like it's like, let's get back in the car and go.
Like, not every town is like this. I want to make it clear.
I've never
towns
been
are not
frightened.
Small towns are not all like that. I found some
In
extremely
the South,
nice, charming towns.
Never been that scared. I've never come across a big pile of meth teeth or anything like that. But I've got a lot of family.
That's Meth Teeth Hill.
I've
we go
got a lot
sledding
of
in the winter.
in like Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and stuff. So I've spent a lot of time in the Southeast. I've just never felt like that uncomfortable or like that endangered or anything. And, that's definitely like a stereotype, like hillbilly bumpkins do whatever the fuck they want to do. And, they're weird.
But for the most part, they're good people for the most part. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
It's really just a concern of like it's just the feeling of being the outsider, which is a feeling that a lot of people deal with every day for one reason or another.
Yeah.
But like for me, it's pretty rare to feel that way. And when you're in a small town that's isolated, that that there's a good chance that a person who might transgress on you for one reason or another knows the local police or something, like you don't know if you have a recourse to safety.
Yeah.
And it just makes my city boy ass perking up a little bit. It makes me tighten like a snare drum.
Damn, Brainy's got that tight ass. You shall
That's
not
why he's so
scared. Gracious. Cool. So
I kind of found it hard to be like too judgy of our characters in this movie.
Yeah.
That were a little skittish.
Yeah. No, yeah. It makes sense.
For that reason.
Let's go ahead and get into some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
Is it totally time?
Take it away,
It's
Randy.
totally time. There's a bunch of trivia, so I'm going to give you guys some general trivia first, and then I'll give you some categories.
I think we're running a little long.
Who gives a shit? All right. General trivia. Have we ever given a shit is the question I want to give you.
We do have a 4-hour episode, so apparently not.
Yep.
True.
So we do not care. Billy Redden didn't know how to play the banjo, and that's the young kid in the movie playing the banjos.
Billy!
He did not know how to play, so they simulated realistic chord playing during dueling banjos by having another boy, a skilled banjo player, play the chords with his arm reaching around Redden's side while Redden picked. Musicians Eric Weisberg and Steve Mandel played on the soundtrack. So they picked this kid for looks. And by the way,
that's interesting because it's usually the reverse. Like, the good-looking person, like it shows them while like the ugly person.
The person who's acting like he's like a major actor in the film. You get a stand-in for him. You don't get a stand-in for like the bit part, unless you want a specific look. And I gotta say, like kid had a look, and like I've seen an interview with him as an adult, and he still loves the movie. He's like a normal dude. It's like, I love the movie. I watched this like interview with him, and then a bunch of people in the town or in the area that are like, well, I think it's just a bunch of stereotypes. We're not all like inbred hicks or whatever, which is totally fair. But then this guy's but this guy's like, I mean, I was in this movie. It was a good time. I'm glad I was in it. It's whatever. So Billy Redden had his Oscar bait movie, and then he retired happily. I think he was a vet or something like that. I don't know. Can't remember. But so that was interesting. Even though the character was clumsy and uncoordinated, Ned Beatty, who played Bobby, was the only of the 4 main actors with any experience in a canoe prior to shooting. So that was interesting to me. Counter to his character. The Dueling Banjos song won a Grammy Award for Best Original Song. It was written back in 1955 by Arthur Smith and has been used in an October 1963 episode of The Andy Griffith Show, but it won for this movie, for the rendition in this movie.
Nice.
Real
Bobby
nice.
is the only of the 4 leads whose occupation is revealed. He's an insurance salesman. The book, however, reveals that Ed is a graphic designer. What? Lewis is a landlord. And Drew
Lewis is what?
A landlord.
Oh.
And Drew is a soft drink executive. I guess he's working for fucking PepsiCo.
The name's Coca-Cola.
Drew Cola.
Drew
The rape scene, as originally scripted, consisted mainly of swearing. The squeal like a pig phrase was an attempt to, quote, clean up the scene for a television broadcast viewing.
Damn.
John Boorman liked the cleaner version better and instead used it in the film. Yeah, it's definitely scarier.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck yeah. Like,
the idea that you're going to like rape somebody, but the fact that what gets you off is you want them to squeal like a pig while you're raping them, like that idea is so, and the sounds
like
to make
in
it,
order,
like,
you're such a repulsive person that in order to sexually assault you, I have to pretend that you are a pig.
I thought that was a choice. Obviously, it was a choice in some way, but I thought
it wasn't in the book.
A thematic choice for the movie because it sort of goes further to prove that we are just like animals, right? When you get right down to it. You know?
I mean, you could definitely make that argument posthumously, but like it wasn't a conscious decision. So
that's surprising to me.
There you go. Yeah. And terrifying.
Yeah.
This one's for Juice. The broken bone jutting from Burt Reynolds' leg was a broken lamb bone. I really wanted to tell you about that in the moment when you brought it up earlier. But it was just like a lamb shank. Becky and I were watching it together, and she's like, I'm like repulsed by that, but also it kind of just looks like a cut of meat.
It was just like a floppy thing. It was just like effective.
The blood would have washed away, so it's like
it was literally just a kind of hunk of meat, and so I was surprised by how effective it was because I was like, it just looks like a slap of meat hanging off his pant leg. But
a traditional or like a majority of horror movies with any sort of gore anywhere near that fashion would have been like concealing a lot of the seams with blood, and this movie didn't have logically didn't have that luxury, so they just used a fucking lamb bone and just like glued it to his leg, I guess.
Hey guy, you got some meat on your jeans.
Yeah. So we can talk about. I'll let you guys pick between these two categories, and then I'll go to the next one after your first choice. We can go to casting, or we can go to the Hill People as an option.
Hill People.
Hill People.
All right, let's talk about Hill People real quick. To save costs and add to the realism, local residents were cast in the roles of Hill People. According to director John Borman, the gas station attendant's jig during dueling banjos was unscripted and spontaneous.
Nice.
I forgot about that.
Ooh, that dance, man.
I like that.
Dude was getting down.
But with like the stony face, that's what made it for me, is he was jigging hard, but he was stony fucking face. He was not enjoying that dance.
This is my job.
Oh, man. When John Borman was looking for an actor to play the toothless hillbilly, Burt Reynolds suggested Herbert Cowboy Coward, who was illiterate and stuttered. Reynolds had previously worked with Coward in a Wild West show in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. And I heard Burt Reynolds do an interview on Conan where he was talking about this. He was like, yeah, so, he wasn't literate. And, I mentioned that to John Borman, but, when we got in there, John Borman absentmindedly said, okay, no, just read this part. And he was like, he looked over at me, and I'm from Burt Reynolds' perspective. He looked over at me and I was like, oh, okay, so you're just going to say, this or whatever, and he's like started stuttering out his lines really, really bad, and I'm not going to imitate it. But when he was done, John Borman said, "Well, you got the part." So it was like a real thing. He knew what he wanted.
How did Burt Reynolds know this guy?
He worked on a Wild West show in Maggie Valley, North Carolina, with him. So I'm guessing sort of like, I don't know, some sort of show involving cattle roping or some shit. I have no idea.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to casting now. Considered for the part of Ed, here are 4 names that are pretty heavy hitters, surprisingly. Donald Sutherland, Lee Marvin, who they decided was too old for this, Gene Hackman, and Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson, yeah. That's a lot of fucking heavy hitters.
Huh, yeah, none of those, yeah. Ed has to be like so neutral. Like the thing about like saying like, oh, like the acting was so great is I feel like he had to be almost like nothing. Like he did fine, but he had to be a guy that you could just like infuse yourself into and just be like so neutral. So like if it was like Gene Hackman, like
having him be a relative unknown was actually a huge benefit for them, I think.
Yeah.
But also, I think that, Jack Nicholson is obviously capable of that. Gene Hackman probably would have been capable of that. I think that Donald Sutherland, having seen him in Body Snatchers around the same time, I think that age Sutherland was right for this role too. But for various reasons, these guys didn't work out. They either wanted it or they didn't get it, or they either wanted it or what I don't know, whatever. They didn't get
Yeah.
they were considered. They were wanted for it, maybe. So this is considered for or wanted for the part of Lewis. And these were the two main roles. These are the ones that we have information on. Other people coming in for it. Steve McQueen was considered. Henry Fonda was considered. Yeah.
Damn.
Marlon Brando was considered. And I found out that around this time, Brando, who, by the way, Godfather, same here, he's a little busy. So Brando, rather, Burt Reynolds was kind of considered like the budget Brando of the time. And this was his movie where he got to kind of break that spell when it came to casting directors. So it was good for him. Charlton Heston. And then this one kind of blew my mind. James Stewart, who at this time would have been pretty goddamn old. I don't know if I could see him as brawny ass machismo driven motherfucking Lewis in this movie. That really kind of was like, okay, some of these guys are kind of old, but James Stewart, I think that nature is the best, and I really don't think we should be damming this river, fellas. I don't think so. Like, I don't know about that.
That'd be a different movie right there.
So here's a section. I'm just kind of zooming through a section called "People Being Super Chill About Getting Hurt on Set." To minimize costs, the production was not insured, and actors did their own stunts. John Voight actually climbed that cliff in a nod to their stunt performing audacity. Early in the movie, Lewis says, "Insurance? I've never been insured in my life. I don't believe in insurance. There's no risk." During filming, rocks destroyed 5 wooden canoes and dented the aluminum ones severely. Yeah. Credit.
I can't believe he climbed that cliff.
I can't either.
Holy shit.
Like, you gotta respect that shit.
On a set that's not insured?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah. Exactly.
No.
Yeah. While filming While filming the whitewater canoeing scene, Ned Beatty was thrown overboard and was sucked under by a whirlpool. A production assistant dove in to save him, but he didn't surface for 30 seconds.
Jeez.
John Boorman.
Holy shit, dude.
There's more. John Boorman asked Beatty, "How did you feel?" And Beatty responded, "I thought I was going to drown." And the first thought was, "How will John finish the film without me?" And my second thought was, I bet the bastard will find a way.
Damn.
Dying thoughts.
Yep. So Burt Reynolds broke his coccyx tailbone while going down the rapids when his canoe capsized. Don't laugh, you children.
Burt cannot break his coccyx. His coccyx breaks you. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We got it out of our systems now, everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Good?
Continue.
Okay.
Continue.
Originally, a cloth dummy was used, but it looked too fake, like a dummy going over a waterfall. When Reynolds recovered, he asked, "How did it look?" And director John Boorman replied, "Like a dummy going over a waterfall."
Yep.
Great story. I love that story.
Wait, over a waterfall? Where was the water?
Yeah, he went down the rapids. I mean,
okay.
semi waterfalls.
I got you.
Yeah, during the filming of the canoe scene, author James Dickey, who wrote the book Deliverance, showed up inebriated and got into a bitter argument with John Boorman, who had rewritten Dickey's script. They had a brief fist fight in which Boorman's nose was broken and 4 of his teeth shattered. Dickey was thrown off the set, but no charges were filed against him. The two reconciled, became good friends, and Boorman gave Dickey a cameo role as the sheriff at the end of the film.
Damn.
Brutal.
Really just kind of, you got to let shit go, I guess. What are 4 teeth between friends? That's fucking
damn.
Nuts.
I know. If I broke 4 of y'all's teeth or y'all broke 4 of mine, that'd be
I think that'd be it, probably. All right. I'm not going to be around you anymore.
That's the end of the show.
Yeah. Now we know how to end it. And that's how that's going to be the last episode of the show, is just the sound of one of us breaking each other's teeth. Sounds like a good season finale to me.
Yeah.
Alternate ending. The alternate ending was shot but cut from the final version. It takes place a few weeks, perhaps months, after the main events. It appeared in James Dickey's original script as part of the final dream sequence, but not not as the story's literal conclusion. Lewis walks with a crutch. In Dickie's screenplay, his leg is amputated below the knee. Ed, Lewis, and Bobby meet with the sheriff near the dam in Antry. The sheriff directs them to a body on a stretcher and uncovers it so they can look at his face. No identifiable details of the body are shown, but a deliberate choice to make the audience uncertain whether the dead man is Drew, Don, Bob, or the Toothless Man. The body was played by Christopher Dickey, James Dickey's son, who writes about scenes in his memoir, and even doesn't know whose body it's supposed to be. In the screenplay, Ed awakens from his dream, terrified just before the corpse's face is revealed. So this is like in place of the hand.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Basically. Pretty similar, though. So, and this is what I was talking about with that hand. This is influences and the influence and legacy of this movie. A dream sequence at the end became an inspiration for the end of Carrie in 1976 and countless other horror films after that. So this movie kind of like solidified the dead hand at the end of the movie, or like the person coming back to life, the final scare sort of thing. And as much as I was giving it shit for being like a tried and like overused trope that people use just for a final scare, in this movie I think it's used so well because it's not that stingy thing. It's not that
looking
jump
at you
scare.
Friday the 13th.
Looking
Spoiler.
at you.
Well, I mean, even then it was like at least still like
looking
early
at you.
80s and not like
1980.
they're still pulling that shit. Yeah, they're still pulling that shit. That was only a few years after this movie, and Carrie as well. So, anyway. Following this film, tourism increased in Rabun County by tens of thousands.
No.
By 2012,
Why?
by 2012, tourism was the largest source of revenue in the county. John Voight's stunt double from this film, Claude Terry, later purchased equipment used in the movie from Warner Brothers. He founded what is now the oldest whitewater rafting adventure company on the Chattooga River, Southeastern Expeditions. By 2012, rafting had developed as a $20 million industry in the region.
Damn.
Good
Need to
for
invest in
that guy.
That's a lot of rafting. That's a shitload of rafting.
Yeah. Shitload of rafting.
Damn.
Imagine if they could afford a jet ski.
No. Too soon. We're not there yet. Not there yet.
We'll get there. Bill McKinney.
Wow, we're going to get there.
Bill McKinney became so closely identified with his role as Mountain Man, a rapist, by the way, that he adopted feellikeapig.com as the name of his official website. Since his death, the domain name is available for purchase.
Wow.
Well, let me get on that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an opportunity waiting to happen.
We're going to update straightchillingpodcast.com to squeallikeapig.com. That's happening.
Okay, done.
I feel like we get a lot of weird traffic.
Mostly people looking to fuck pigs, so it's kind of an honest, like nice choice. All right, and we're in our final section now. There's only a couple more things. Burt Reynolds being Burt Reynolds is this final section. Burt Reynolds describes author James Dickey as, quote, a guy who, when he's had a couple of martinis, you want to drop a grenade down his throat.
Damn.
Burt being Burt.
I love that.
And then this is probably the most pivotal and most interesting piece of trivia on here. Burt Reynolds believed that his nude centerfold in Cosmopolitan magazine cost the film a Best Picture Oscar.
You got to tuck that coccyx there.
Yeah.
Damn, Bert. You really cost us.
You really shouldn't have swung dong in that magazine, Bert.
Couldn't wait until after the awards, Bert.
Come on, Bert. Could have waited till March.
Fucking Bert.
I don't know. What it was against The Godfather, though.
Yeah, I mean that's my thoughts too. But
yeah, I don't think that has a whole lot to do with
Bert's
it.
not going to allow for such thinking in his world. So
Thinks a little highly of himself, potentially.
Methinks so.
Potentially. Cool.
Is that a segue, or what's the next segment?
Yeah, that allow us to segue into the next segment. We're gonna skip news this evening, but we got 2 voicemails. Oh wait, actually, what am I talking about? I'm so sorry. We have to talk.
We gotta go hunting.
We gotta talk Cooter of the week. Here we go.
Let's hunt him.
We gotta hunt them.
We gotta do it. So, I mean, it's really
First of
anybody's
all-
guess.
Yeah, we've got
it's a heavy field.
We've got the 4 points of the cooterdom, the smug arrogance, the sexual deviancy, the manipulation, and the one that kind of gets a lot of question marks, like the attire. I feel like if you need a reference for maybe some cooter attire, that sleeveless vest that Burt Reynolds was rocking.
It's pretty good.
That's
It's
pretty
like-
up there.
It's this black sleeveless like shirt vest.
It's like an
that he wears.
Aquaman costume.
Yeah, like
But
quick
also
dry.
the material it's made out of. It looks like something one you shouldn't ever wear, but definitely something you shouldn't wear on a camping trip.
Yeah, it seems like
it
you would
looks
get
like you're
contact rashes all day long.
Yeah.
To me.
looks like you're going to a weird club in the 70s, not on a camping trip. Like it's
Well, the ladies loved it, so
so the weird ass sleeveless vest. That's
he wins
your
that
attire
award
right
for this
there.
movie. I think even the like the backwoods mountain men, they don't dress as weird as that fucking vest.
Yeah, he's also made Burt Reynolds. I mean, he's not raping anybody, but he's got some smug arrogance.
Oh, he's got that market cornered too.
He's
actually.
got the attire on lock.
The attire and the arrogance.
Doesn't really manipulate.
But there's some arrogance to
anybody.
go around, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of arrogance
No,
to go around.
no sexual deviancy on Bert's end either. He's
Yeah,
No,
the
not
sexual
on Bert's
deviance
end.
that's pretty clear where that lands.
right,
But-
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Which I mean, at this point, you got to go with the backwoods like yokel, who are like
It's almost
one,
like morally
feel like a
obligated
pig.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have some like kind of goofy ass attire too, but it's
Yeah.
nothing like
They have-
like.
It's not so weird.
They
It's
have
at
a
least like in
severe-
character.
Severe lack of teeth, which that I don't know if
They
we want
do.
Yeah,
to apply
they
that.
do.
That
to the
kind of
attire or
adds
not.
to the overall general like appearance. I guess
Yeah,
not necessarily attire, but appearance. How you present
It's
yourself.
an accessory. I present myself with no teeth.
Teeth are optional. They're,
Also,
Yes.
that dude says like I don't. For some reason, the pig squeal is like disturbing, but the dude's saying like you got a pretty mouth. It's
That's
like
so-
it's like some cooter level, like
Yes,
some
'cause
cooter level sexual.
That's
deviance.
like a thing, like the squeal like a pig. I almost want to apply to. He just wants to freak him out as bad as he can. Like you could at least make that argument. But telling
Yeah.
somebody they got a pretty, that seemed like it came from the heart. That was
it did, yeah.
that was
It
not.
seemed true.
Cooter one-liners over here. Ooh, you got.
And the
pretty-
smile he gives. Ooh, that's a
Yeah,
that's a Cheshire grin, baby.
that's heinous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like fucking Gomer Pyle with like a severe lack of teeth and
it's
just
it's
some
in stark,
illness going
stark
on.
contrast to a very very ugly mouth.
No,
Yeah. Boys,
The
I want to be the first to tell you, you guys both got really ugly mouths, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, your mouth, son, looks like dog shit.
So, I mean, overall, I don't know who to give it to. I
want to give it to the pretty mouth like guy.
I think we got to
Yeah.
give a multiple award here. It's
Yeah.
got to be Pretty
Yeah.
Mouth.
The
Pretty Mouth might be top.
The two of
Pretty
them
Mouth,
together.
and I think it's a duo. I can't
Yeah.
separate the two because they're both
Yeah.
they're
a
very
tag
much
team.
going to rape people.
They're a rape and tag team.
Also-
they're like taking turns and like watching the other. Yeah, they're a tag
fuck
team.
Yeah.
those guys. They got to take.
But the
top
guy,
spot.
also the guy who says like you got a pretty mouth, he's got a little bit of smug arrogance in the way like he hold like the well, I guess they both do, and the way they're like
Both do.
they get
They're
their
like, they're
power
playing with their
trip.
food. You
Yeah,
know?
they're like with the gun, like I'll shoot you or whatever. Just like they got this
Like
like,
if-
you know.
They could have, if they were really like hiding some still or something in the woods or whatever, they could have just shot those dudes. But
Yeah,
they chose
exactly,
to rape
yeah.
and
They
terrorize
could
them.
have just gave them a little bit
So-
of whiskey, and they would have been real stoked about it and been on their way. You know?
Yeah, they offered to
made
buy
some
some.
money.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, like
They're,
that's
but
not what they were there
then,
for. They weren't there to make money. They were there to rape people.
Yeah.
On the smug arrogance aspect of it too, he was like, if we want it, we'll take it or whatever, like the money, or like it was like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll buy some whiskey from me. He's like, if we want your money, we'll take it from you. It's like,
Yeah,
goddamn.
exactly.
Cool. All right.
It's like, dude, just sell some whiskey.
Yeah.
Jesus, your
Just
brother's
take
the
the
sheriff.
money.
You piece of shit.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Oh well.
So
Yeah.
those guys take it, but I
Yeah.
think that Bert ranks. I think he ranks for for me.
Yeah.
He hits a point or
He's
two,
like-
for sure.
He's at least a guy like he can exist in civilized society though. Like I'm not afraid of
Cooter's
Bert,
damn.
but I do think that Bert is a cooter in this movie.
Bit of a cooter.
A little bit of a cooter.
A little bit.
The smug arrogance really puts it over the top.
So we've got a couple voicemails as we jump into our Hotline Scream segment. So we're doing something a little different for this segment. Every week in October, we're going to be posing a prompt for you guys to call in and answer, for your answers to be featured on next week's show. So the prompt for this week's show was, what's the worst Halloween candy to get? So we've got 2 voicemails, 2 answers we're going to get into. First one calling up, we hear from our boy Hydraberg. Talks a little bit about the movie and a little bit about what the worst Halloween candy is to get. Let's hear what Hydraberg has to say. Here we go.
What up, boys? It's your boy, Hydraberg. Just calling in this week. You guys are watching Deliverance. It's not conventional horror, but it's out there, and it's a little, there is some horrific parts to it. I don't know. It's just kind of scary being in the backwoods, not being where you're from, and not having a cell phone or anything to call help when something like that happens. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sure Justin's probably going to tear it apart, but I think Randy and Bob will like it. As far as candy from Halloween that I hate, it's probably the candy apples with the razor blades or the roll of dimes that the old ladies give you. But seriously, it's probably Mounds or Almond Joy, because I can't stand nuts or coconut. The shit's nasty. I don't know. They should, even if you wrap it in chocolate, it's still a piece of shit. Sorry for anybody that does like it, but I don't. And just remember, guys, to always keep chilling. And you got a real purty mouth.
I didn't know Hydraberg could play the damn banjo so well.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's
he's dueling himself.
Oh my god,
Dueling himself.
hate it. Dueling himself.
I love the speech to text read your name, Rob, as Baba. I'm gonna call you Baba Yaga from now on.
That is my name. That's my Christian name, actually. So, I don't know, Almond Joy.
Damn, Hydraberg throwing some shade on me.
Oh, that's right.
Damn.
No faith.
I think of his movies that he's picked. I think the only one I gave a hard time was Cujo, the Cooge. Cooge name.
The Cooge.
The last one, to be fair. You were wrong, Hydraberg. But he did the Burbs. He did that one where the alien took the bodies.
The Hidden.
Yeah, he did the Entity, which I didn't shit on.
Yeah.
Come on,
He's
Hydraberg.
had some good picks.
Give the boy a break.
Not so bad.
I think I'll be pleasantly surprised with the outcome.
Yeah.
For sure.
I will take issue with the Almond Joy issues.
Yeah, I was about to
Almond
say.
Joys are delicious.
I love
Dude,
nuts
I
and
love coconut. Yeah, me too.
In fairness, that coconut is probably like 1% coconut. But that said, it's delicious.
It is.
I just know like that candied flavor coconut or whatever. It's pretty divisive. There's a lot of people that don't like coconut cake and stuff like that.
I didn't like it when I was a kid.
Love it. I love Almond Joys. I love the Mounds.
It took me until maybe high school before I actually appreciated an Almond Joy. But that shit is great to me now.
You know what though? That's what's great about Halloween though, especially with just general things like that. It's like, oh shit, I got all these Mounds. I hate Mounds.
Yeah.
Like, give them to me, bitch.
Yeah, trade.
I love the Mound.
Trade.
Yeah.
That's why you need to have some children. Get you some Almond Joy that they can't handle. That's the reason to have children.
Just go to the store and buy my own.
No. No, but you get them free if you just have a bunch of expensive kids.
Totally.
I think the $3.50 it takes to buy a bag of Almond Joys
that's an expensive ass Almond Joy, dude. You got,
oh man,
what's going on?
The
in
bag,
Korea?
the Halloween bag.
Okay.
Rob, you're going too small. You don't get an Almond Joy by the
just
single
buy one.
joy.
Buy them
You
by
don't buy
the
one
hundreds.
joy. You buy so many joys.
I got 100 joys. That's sure.
just I just like broke down capitalism for everyone.
I wonder why they have two different names. Why is it Almond Joy and Mounds? Like
Mounds doesn't have almonds.
Yeah, no nuts. That's the
But
difference.
it's Almond Joy. It's not Almond Joy Mounds, is it?
No, it's just they're the same company, but there's Mounds that don't have almonds and Almond Joy that does have almonds.
Yeah, it's just like when they add like pretzels to M&Ms, it's not all of a sudden a different name. It's not all of a sudden like
I think they were made
Pretzy Choco. It's like
they were made in a
M&Ms
time
with
before it was
pretzels.
like brand recognition dictates that we rename the M&M.
Pretzy Choco. Nobody would ever
Pretzy
name anything.
Pretzy Choco.
That was just off the top of my dome.
That's
you
what
know,
they
just.
Oh,
I'm spitballing
man.
here, Bob. I'm workshopping.
The Pretzy Choco.
That's the worst
I would eat
Halloween
that.
candy, officially. Pretzy Choco. God.
No, I'd eat that. It's better than regular goddamn pretzels. Fuck that.
We got one more voicemail. We got one more voicemail. We got to hear from Miles calling in about the Halloween candy. Let's hear what he has to say.
What's going on, guys? Miles from North Carolina here. I was calling about the worst Halloween candy you can receive. I don't even know how this is a debate, because the answer is obviously candy corn. Just candy corn's a trash candy. It's so trash you can't even get it outside of October. Try to find some candy corn in March. You can't. So, yeah, that's the correct answer. Anybody that says anything else is wrong. Yeah, just candy corn is trash. If you go to a holiday party this October and someone has candy corn, flip the table over and leave, because you deserve better. So yeah, candy corn's the right answer. Love to hear what you guys think.
Miles, I thought we were cool, man, but you had to go and hurt me. You had to go and hurt me.
Whoa, Bob!
Let me-
That's an assault on Bob's
Cut me
character.
deep,
Right
son.
Yeah, Rob has like identified his life with a candy corn.
there. Dude loves.
I'll tell you this:
love
I don't
it.
love candy corn. I don't love it, but I'll eat a bag on Halloween time. I'll tell you what's
Yeah.
worse. What's worse than that is the fucking pumpkins, the little fucking cream
Dude.
pumpkins. I do not.
I
care
will
for
agree.
those.
The mellow creams are delicious.
It's too much. It hurts my teeth, and it hurt
It
my
is so
teeth when I was a child.
I have
and my
so
teeth
many
were new
bags
and spanking
in my-
fresh.
I have so many bags in
Yeah.
my pantry right now. They're delicious.
In your panties?
In my panties right now. Mellow creams
Oh,
in my
man.
panties right now. You
Oh,
heard it.
no.
Yeah, I'm
So
kind of
Those
the
are
same
worse than
way.
candy corn.
When October came around, I would like get, like maybe one or like kind of snack on it when Bob had it out. So like I can eat it, but
I'm your dealer.
I will say
You're a candy corn
Yeah.
vampire. Just
My,
feeding off Rob.
my sister came to visit Seoul last October, and she brought. We do like holiday things with the kids, so we celebrate Halloween in October. So she brought some candy corn. And they did not like it.
The
The
kids?
Korean kids, did
Oh,
not
that's
like
so funny.
candy corn. I will say though that the candy corn M&Ms with the white chocolate, that shit is
delicious.
bomb.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
shit! It is lit, fam. It is so lit,
Oh, wow.
I'm
You
not
really-
30.
dude.
Man.
20 stains over here is
20 stains. They call me
20 stains. They call me 20 stains because I'm so 20 years old.
man.
That's what they call me. But no, the candy corn M&Ms are so
Yeah,
fucking good.
they are fire. Absolutely.
They're pretty
and also, they don't make them anymore, I don't think. But there was a few years there where you could get candy corn Oreos, where they had like the vanilla cookies, and the
Oh,
cream
yeah.
was candy corn.
I never
flavor.
tried that.
Oh my god, it was so.
That's a pass.
Freaking good.
That sounds gross.
Oh man, that was good.
The Oreo flavors, for some reason, Oreo specifically, and all their bizarre flavors just don't work for
Yeah.
me.
Once they start going like I don't like. I think of like chocolates that
Sriracha
like more
Oreos.
like savory sweet. Like chocolate's more rich. But when
Gravy
you-
Oreos.
When they have like fruit punch Oreos or like candy corn Oreos, I'm like, no, that's not the flavors you need to be
No.
It's
dealing with.
supposed to be rich chocolatey goodness, even though there's no
Yeah.
chocolate.
It's all about
And it's
that
not that
Pretza
rich.
Choco, dog. That's where it's at.
Choco, man. That's where I'm going. I'm gonna sell Pretza Choco on squeallikeapig.com.
Damn, you might make a killer.
I might.
You might find your audience that way. Well, thanks for calling in, guys. It's good to hear from you. I think, like, just to weigh in real quick, I think we should drop our least favorite Halloween candies.
Dude.
Which
I was
think I
saying
made
I got
myself clear.
I got a couple. Yeah, Randy hated the pretzels.
Pretzels, man.
Those circus peanuts are, bro. What
those
is
are
that
trash.
even
They're pretty
made out
They're
of? Those are circus peanuts.
I think that's just caulking
gross.
fluid.
Dude. Also, like those wax lips. Y'all remember the wax lips?
Yeah, those are more about the lip. That's more about
You wear
wearing fake lips.
I know,
though,
but
than
still,
eating
I
them.
remember like
They're not
even
good.
just kind of like the wax things and like the wax like Coke bottles or
The
whatever.
nickel nip. Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a replacement for like gum, I guess, because you can
Bottle
like,
caps.
it's gross. It's gross.
Bottle
Yeah.
caps were terrible to me. Oof.
Yeah, or like
They're
those
okay.
like round like that are similar to bottle. Maybe they are bottle cap. They're like the round like chalky.
They're round. Yeah, it's like sweet tarts, but they're nowhere near as good.
They're not,
And they're like root beer flavored. It's like,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, yeah, sweet tarts are dope. Oh, I
Sweet tarts are great. They're one of the best.
One of my least
When you get 3
favorite-
blue sweet tarts in a single package,
Winning.
you know the Lord is
Right.
smiling upon you.
One of my least favorite Halloween candies, and this is like a fairly common candy you get, are just Twizzlers, man. I hate Twizzlers.
Yeah, it is pretty common, but they are pretty
I
like.
think they're a divisive candy. I
don't
think
like
you'd find a lot of people that agree with you.
Yeah.
And a lot
I
of
would
people that
never
would
be
stab
like
you.
excited to get them, but I would
eat 'em.
rather have like more, but I would eat them.
The pull and peel are good, and I like those pretty good.
Yeah,
Eh,
yeah. I see where you're coming from though. I feel you.
Yeah,
Not for me.
I wouldn't blame anybody for hating those. I could see that being pretty divisive.
yeah.
But
They're
pretzels,
pretty, like,
man,
non-flavorful.
don't give
They
me.
just, like, don't taste like anything.
If I come to your door in full costume and I say trick or treat, and you hand me a bag of pretzels, you're telling me that you don't respect me. You don't think that I can tell the difference between a treat and a piece of shit. That's what you're giving me. It's horse shit.
Also,
It's chalky ass fucking little breadlets. Just have like fucking giant kernels of salt just like glued to them with fucking epoxy. It's the
also like
worst.
the people who feel like inclined to give you like toothbrushes or something. It's just like just don't do anything.
Right.
I
Turn
don't
your
like
light
that
off.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those people,
just like
those people get their comeuppance once the lights go out and the eggs start flying. So fuck them. But the
Yeah,
pretzel
it's
people
just
never
like-
get put on blast. And I'm blasting their asses.
These aren't even
like,
Pretzy Chacos. What the fuck?
Don't not
Put
preach
some
to
choco
me
on my pretzies.
in the form. Don't preach to me in the form of like passive aggressive like toothbrushes.
At the dimes, I never got a dime, but I heard tale of it, and that's a good call.
My
too.
least
Those-
favorite, where you go to the people's houses and they give you like a little Christian pamphlet about like a come to Jesus pamphlet.
Oh, the chick
kind of-
tracts.
Oh,
Man, those people
Get the shit
love
outta here.
the smell of rotting eggs on their doors.
Love it. Love it.
Did you guys ever egg a house?
Yeah.
I have done an egged
I'm a
house.
bad
I'm a bad person who has egged a house.
Yeah, I've done it too.
Yeah.
If you're gonna
And
fuck with
God,
somebody,
Lord knows we
Youth sucks
toilet
when you
paper.
get old.
I was gonna say toilet paper somebody's house. It's the nicer way to fuck with somebody. Don't throw eggs. That shit kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the teens that definitely listen to this show with a bunch of dudes. in
Yeah,
their
I'm
30s
gonna say
talking.
like anybody who like might benefit from learning that lesson is not gonna listen
True.
to our dumbasses. So
Yeah,
too
don't do
late.
it, kids.
Too fucking late.
2 men in their 30s, 120.
an hour and a
20
half
stay.
into a podcast of us talking about a movie where dudes are getting raped, they're gonna
Right.
come to Jesus about not
It's
egging
not-
houses.
It's not lit, fam. Okay,
It's
do
not-
not.
Pokemon go to the polls.
You so painfully want to sound like you're 20. I love it. We're about to bang
It's
30s,
not lit,
fam.
fam, to egg a house. Okay,
It doesn't
It's not
slap.
fire. It's
let's
not
just
fire.
be
It's
cool
not
and
slap.
chill, guys.
It doesn't slap, okay?
It doesn't slap.
Let's.
You know what's fire? Respecting your parents.
Respecting authority, men in their 30s. That's
That's it. All men in their 30s are authority figures.
It's real cool to respect men in their 30s.
my
That's
authority.
lit. Man.
So, we do have a new prompt for next week. We want you guys to call in and leave us your responses. So the prompt for next week is
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
The prompt for next week is, what is your most memorable Halloween costume? Whether it was like a really dope costume, you're proud of it, or it's like a really stupid, embarrassing costume you got embarrassed to wear. Either way, just what's your most memorable Halloween costume? Call in, let us know at 904-638-3231. We want to hear from all ya. Hit us up.
Did I ever tell you, Juice? Like one of your big nicknames for me back when the nickname factory was running at full speed was Borland, because of that one time I wore a plaid shirt. Plaid shirt. Well, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but there was one Halloween where your boy dressed as Al Borland, and
I think we found that out later back, and it kind of blew our mind.
Your mom told us. And
your mom's right.
I was going to not tell you.
Yeah, you didn't
I was kind of keeping that to myself, and then Mom blew my spot so hard.
Oh,
it's pretty funny. Yeah.
Oh, she put you on blast.
Ironic because we called you Borland, and like of the nicknames that it was probably just kind of a general Borland.
It was weak. It was a weak
Borland.
I remember specifically you cringing in your seat at Paranormal Activity and staring at me, saying, "Oh, Borland, oh, Borland,
oh, Borland." But yes, Al Borland. So that's Randy's. I was a Ninja Turtle for like so many years as a child. Like I just loved Ninja Turtle.
Wait, save him for next week.
Save
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got to give a little teaser. I'll save the embarrassing.
I have plenty to talk about.
Good. Yeah. Good. I've got some pretty good ones too. Shit. Yeah, some good shit. All right. So there's only one thing left to do, Justin. It's time to save a life.
Save a life.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bob. We are in a new month, October. This is, you described it as a potential bloodbath, your word.
And it's the first week, so this is like the week you feel the least guilt about it. So I'm assuming this will be
hang on. This is a segment where we talk about Bob's ever-increasing Blu Ray purchasing. We are trying to see, had Bob just saved his money and not bought all of these Blu Rays, could he have in fact bought a jet ski? Probably. We'll find out soon.
Probably.
Getting closer to the end of the year. So far, we have counted June, July, August, September, in which case the numbers were 14, 19, 15, 18 Blu-rays purchased in those months. Bob, we're starting a new month. It is October. What you got for us this week?
All right, here's the stack. YouTube exclusive. Bam.
Okay,
ooh,
smaller than I
expected. Yes,
4.
You got a nice 4. Well, it's 5, including
Bob,
the double disc.
One of those is unacceptable. Though.
So
put it back. Wait,
I missed it.
Or what you got? Tell us what you got.
So one of them already mentioned was The Prey that was recently put out by Arrow. I picked up a double bill, 2 discs for the price of one. That is The Devil's Rejects and House of 1,000 Corpses. I picked up.
Why do you have that? Why did you?
Well, I'm probably gonna have to watch Devil's Rejects here for next month, but we'll see. It hasn't been decided yet. Also, I picked up Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and finally, Kino Lorber recently put out Nightmare Beach on Blu-ray. I picked that little gem up. If you're
so what's unacceptable?
The zombie double feature, I'm assuming.
Is that
it's the Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay. Well, I mean, considering what's coming up.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but to preemptively buy it,
it was
you don't
cheap.
know.
It was super cheap.
It's also a horror movie, and Rob is spending money, so it's fair guess that he might end up with that one.
I do want to give a quick shout out to Nightmare Beach. I checked that out last night. I'd never seen it before. It's an Italian movie from the 80s that's set in Florida. Definitely.
Oh.
It's a bonkers 80s slasher. It's got some good laughs, some pretty decent kills. It's 80s as hell, and it's Italian as hell. I enjoyed the shit out of it, man.
Does it look like they shot it in Florida? I know you said it's set.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was shot in Florida or not, to be honest, but it does look like it was. Like, I actually would believe it if they did shoot it in Florida.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they did. I got to check that out. But the premise of it is there's like this biker gang, and one of their members gets caught and tried for murder, and he gets the electric chair and dies, and then Shortly after that, there's this biker running around, and he's got a helmet on, so you can't see his face. And he's murdering people, and the way he murders people, he electrocutes them to death, primarily via the electric chair that he is attached to the back of his motorcycle. He gets people to ride on the back of his cycle and then electrocutes them to death.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
It's an easy DIY. I'm pretty sure there's YouTube videos where you can figure that one out.
Huh.
Yeah, and there's also a very obnoxious, like, Florida Gators fan in this movie that's just wasted the whole time running around screaming about the Gators. Go Gators!
Yeah, that sounds pretty appropriate.
Fucking Florida
Go
man.
Gator.
Florida man. Gator bait.
Go Gators.
I enjoyed the shit out of that. Recommend it for sure.
Chick-fil-A. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Those are not Florida things.
No, that was not a Florida thing. Roll Tide, roll.
Roll Tide.
So yeah, we got 4 for the month of October so far. So that's what we got.
Okay, Bob. I think that might be the lowest opening week that you've had. It sounds like we might be saving a life, especially in October. Bob,
He's
you're
in
talking
recovery,
about this
people.
bloodbath and all these pre-orders that you had.
Have they just not arrived yet, Bobby?
We'll see what's happening.
I think we're saving a life. I think we're doing good work here.
Ooh,
Well,
I'm 20 staying saving a life.
It's lit, fam.
it's lit. You know what's lit, fam? Buying a jet ski,
Saving lives really
but
slaps.
not DVDs.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for us here this
Good
week.
job, Bob. I'm proud of you. I'm proud.
Thanks. We're going to be back next week with a brand new review. It's going to be another Patreon pick, actually. This week, coming up, the movie was chosen by Michael from Horror Apocalypse Podcast. Shout outs, check him out, give him some love and some support. The movie we're going to be reviewing is none other than Ghost, the one with Patrick fucking Swayze. Patrick
That's
Swayze's
not a
Ghost.
horror.
We're going to be talking about that.
It's happening. We did it, fam. We did it.
Oh my god!
I actually can't believe we're talking about
Now
that.
we're gonna spend the whole, we just after this week we just spent so much time talking about whether or not things are horror, and then this fucking movie comes up.
You know what though? You know, we'll save it for next week. Oh yes, Michael, he did it. He actually texted me one day and was like, so I got one of the spots. He was like, "You want me to pick Ghost?" I was like, "Man, that's your
that's up to you." Yeah,
I'm not gonna tell you. So it was kind of a little bit of a surprise, I guess they did. I am pleased. I am pleased. This was my potential poll pick for February. It also was my pitch for our 100th episode. I've been pitching this for a while. It's like
a long time. Yeah.
A long time. So like 200 episodes or so I've been pitching that we watch Ghost. So we're fine. It's happening.
I'm actually not so upset that this is finally happening, so that we can stop with the goddamn joke already.
I think
it's time.
I guess we got to do it. We're gonna make it happen. I will say that after this next show, we got some like legitimate Halloween like horror specific shit. Because like this is the spooky fucking month, right? We want to talk about some spooky fucking shit.
We might have some like bonus mini episodes too.
Yeah, that too. Also, something that I was gonna. Oh my god! Something I was gonna mention in the news. Joe Bob's coming back with his Halloween Hootenanny extravaganza. It's going to be a triple feature on Friday, October 25th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do another live watch party for that.
He's trying to outdo us.
He's making it sound like he's going to review Halloween 70.
He's
whatever.
He's
the original.
He's like dancing around it. They never say.
Yeah, but he also chose fucking Phantasm for Christmas. So.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, would he do Halloween 1, 2, and 3? You think, or would he try to do like obscure?
Maybe,
like 4,
who knows?
5,
Maybe yeah.
I don't know.
I hope he does 4 and 5. That'd be fun. 4, 5, and 6. Let's do those.
Just Resurrection 3 times in a row.
3 times Resurrection. Now I want you to notice the rat the 3rd time.
That fucking rat.
That's really honing in on this rat, dude. Oh my god.
Just showing that scene for 7 hours into 4 a.m.
That rat, dude. That might be the funniest thing I've seen this year. It's how we watched Vampire's Kiss. That show's pretty good too.
That show's good.
Yeah, I've seen some wild shit this year.
Wild shit. So yeah, we're gonna be back next week. We're talking about Ghost. Slam your eyeballs into it. Get ready for that review. If you feel so inclined, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. It's a really easy, free way to support the show. Your ratings and reviews help people find us that don't know we exist already, and we really appreciate it. You can hit us up on Twitter at str8_chilling. We are on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you do want to join our Slack channel, hit us up on any one of those social media platforms. Let me know. I'll send you a link so you can join in on the daily conversations. We talk about the movie of the week, TV shows, spooky music, Halloween stuff, all kinds of fun stuff. Again, if you want to leave us a voicemail, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Let us know what's your most memorable Halloween costume, whether for good or bad. And I think that's all I got to shill. So until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.